Okay, I'm doing a little intro here. I think there's going to be multiple greetings in this first segment. My memory's going. So this video at the end, I get into answering or just obliterating these people who want to pretend that these thug, fake, ICE agent provocateurs, false flag, whatever they are. The dude that shot the woman in the head was in self-defense. Like people who are in the truth community saying that are just retarded. So that's how I end this thing. Eviscerate more of Candace Owens' bullshit without having to watch much of her video clips, which was a real blessing. I start off here with Tim Walz, and then we have Gwen Walz, and Trump has lost the QAnon shaman. Say it isn't fucking so. That's how bad it is in Trump land, and a bunch of other funny shit here. And or serious. I don't know, both. But let's start off with Timmy. Timmy's got some things to say that shows really what a manly man he is. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Rainy day here. Saturday, June 10th. This video isn't going up till Monday. And I've put videos up for 5 days in a row, so this will go up, I guess, Monday morning, and I'll get back to my regular kind of schedule because, this big event happened with the whole shooting thing, and, it's getting goofier and goofier. I don't think I have anything as yet today to cover. But I want to cover this. So
expect for the next 11 months for me to ride you like you've never been ridden.
Now, I saw the longer speech, but I'm just glad to show you this part. Now, I said that this guy was gay. At least I thought he was gay. During the run-up to, his run for vice president with Kamala J. Harris. And, it's not as bad for him to be gay as a Democrat because he, for him to pretend he's not as bad, but, he could be openly gay and be a Democrat. It's harder for a Republican, right? It's funnier when Republicans are gay, and so many of them are. They're either closetedly gay or they're secretly gay or they don't know they're gay. And I always find that funny, right? I mean, I understand why gay people have had to hide their identity over the years, and that's not funny. That kind of sucks for anybody. But when it's a Republican and they come out and they're totally anti-gay and they're trying to be not gay, but they're totally gay, it's just really funny. I've talked about this guy, Spiritual Bob, who used to go to him and his buddy who played the guitar, and they would sing songs, and this guy was supposed to be Christian, and he was Christian, but him and his buddy were so gay, and everybody knew it, like all the kids and all the staff at the treatment center I worked at. And I thought it was hilarious. And then when I've seen people like this who are pretending to be gay, Will Smith, or they're bisexual, there's something there, and they're pretending that it isn't there. Will Smith was in that movie 6 Degrees of Separation. I just did a follow-up video about Will Smith on Apocalypse Now. But this guy, his wife is so fucking weird, and he was very, he did things that sounded like he was, when they say things like this, when it's a person that's, you think might be gay, and then they say something like this.
Expect for the next 11 months for me to ride you like you've never been ridden.
This was his speech, I'm not retiring. They can't make me quit speech because he's going through a scandal. And so, this is a good starting place for this video. Did I say greetings, brothers and sisters? If I didn't, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, let's go to Don Lemons has something hilarious here. Okay, so Don Lemons is getting into beef with Stephen A. Smith. I saw a short video on this. And, let's just watch this here.
Bonjour from Paris, everybody. I'm just here in Queer with a casual weekend reminder that Stephen A. Smith is a tap-dancing, mentally deficient Uncle Tom who's made a career on the inability to modulate the volume of his voice. A brain-dead troglodyte who lacks the ability to analyze information even in his chosen arena. which is sports. A sentient, ingrown hair paid by ESPN for your willingness to be a minstrel that disparages black women. African-American man who can see the broad daylight killing of a U.S. citizen and say, hey, no foul on the play. A scum-sucking idiot who has somehow failed upward under the auspice of black achievement. The idea of him being a quote-unquote expert in any field is utter fallacy. It is a sight that I no longer wish to see.
This gay dude is fucking giving it to Stephen A. Smith. Like, oh, I didn't see this part. Holy shit. This guy should be the real Don Lemons. Like, he's just eviscerating Stephen A. Smith.
This is a wrap for me. I'm done, son.
You forgot that.
Like, he just can't laugh normally. Like, he doesn't, Don isn't probably sure why he finds this funny.
Roll credits. That's my favorite part.
My favorite part is roll credits.
Roll credits. You
Roll
gotta have
credit.
that part. Did he not put
That
that
shouldn't be your favorite part. There's a lot of great parts to that.
part in there?
I don't
Are
know,
you-
Andy. Did you take roll credits out? Oh, here we go. Let's see. No.
Oh.
Oh, but that's where we're going to next. But was the roll credits in there? No. We didn't
Yeah.
have-
I love.
I'm done, son. Roll credits.
Oh, you fucking shit on it.
Thank you, Andy. Stephen A. Smith has just been a disappointment. I try not to criticize, especially black men or just black people in general.
Why? Why would that be your barometer? So this is the part I saw. Like, why would you say that, right? Because you're a fucking journalist. Irregardless of color or sexual orientation, you should be able to criticize. There's people that you're going to like more than other people. There are people, there's people that really irritate me, and those people, I'll be more aggressive with or more, negative with just because they irritate me or whatever. Like, I'm having a reaction to them, a negative reaction. And, if I'm covering somebody and they start to wear on me like Candace Owens, then I'll be more insulting or whatever. Everyone has their subjective, whatever it might be. But you shouldn't, base this on racial identification or political identification or any of these other things. Like, there's people like Kyrie Irving, who I slammed for his Illuminati bullshit when he had these Illuminati sneakers and all that stuff. But when he stood up for the anti-vax community and he just wouldn't fucking back down, like Kyrie Irving, I'll never say, I will never cover in a negative way because of that. Like, just in Aaron Rodgers to a lesser extent, people who just do something above and beyond, like that's in his case heroic, and he lost $70 million, Kyrie Irving, on that shit. And so, there's things like that, right? But to base you saying that you try not to criticize black men and black people in general. I mean, first he said black men, then he said black people in general. Like, why would that be the case, right? Why? Like, why would you not do that? Like, call yourself a fucking journalist. But here's the reason why he's willing to do it with Stephen A.
Because we get so much shit. The rules are different for us. But Stephen A. Smith goes off and.
But that's still none of those. The rules are. The rules are different for everybody, not just based in their. Like, what about truthers? Like, you went after anti-vaxxers. You had no problem doing that. Roll the anti-vax meme here.
I think we have to stop coddling people when it comes to this and the vaccine, saying, oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are. The people who aided and abetted Trump are stupid because they believed his big lie. The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind. Because they are keeping the majority of Americans behind.
It's not just he was saying stupid shit and he's wrong. He's just so retarded the way he does it. He's retarded. Why are you so retarded, Don? Don, why are you so retarded? You're being so retarded. This guy's over here retarded. The other thing about this is, imagine a white person saying, and again, I don't get into this whole stuff. Like, I'm not on team white. Like, I'm just not. But, like, imagine a white person saying, I try not to criticize white men. I mean all white people, right? Like, I mean, imagine some guy saying that. Like Don Lemon just said it. No one's going to call him on it. So you have a privilege to be able to say something like that a white person couldn't. You know, white people have the majority of resources. You know, there's more Caucasian people than there are other races here. You know, it's a 70% white country. You know, they have a majority. But, you know, there are privileges that everybody has. And people of color get to say shit like that. You know, they don't, they can talk about not criticizing people in their demographic, but if white people say that, they're racist nationalists. And I'm, you know, not defending them either, but, you know, it's like there's lots of ways to look at something. Anyways, let's get back to it here.
He talks about shit that he has no idea about. He has talked shit about.
Wait, does that remind you of anybody? He talks shit that, Don, you know nothing. You're like the most clueless motherfucker out there.
About me, but no facts.
See, there it is, right? So he doesn't like to criticize black people unless they criticize him, right? The rules are different, he's saying, so he tries not to criticize black people, but he said black men specifically. But then it's like, well, he did shit on me, so let's throw out that let's throw out that you know, that barrier or that you know, orientation.
Much shit. The rules are different for us. But Stephen A. Smith goes off and he talks about shit that he has no idea about. He has talked shit about me, but no facts. He knows how to get in touch with me. He could have called me. He has no facts. He just gets on these like white boy, right wing podcasts or on his own show and just goes off about black people.
White boy? What white boy podcast has he been on? White boy.
People and things that for which he has no clue.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not when we have a brilliant expert like this guy to disseminate information for us.
And he thinks because he's doing it like this, that people are going to listen to him. What's wrong with you? Sucker! I'm like, what am I watching?
He's never said sucker. Now, Stephen A. Smith is very irritating to me. And I slammed him specifically when he went after Kyrie Irving. And then he tried to back out. And then he got into it with Kyrie Irving's father. And eventually had to apologize to both of them because he went, you know, too far. But Stephen A. Smith is the epitome of somebody who goes for clickbait. And he was criticized by the wide receiver of the Jets, Jared, why can't I remember the guy's name? Garrett something. I had the name in my mind just a moment ago, and it's gone. Like when I started that sentence, I knew who I was going to say. But he's the, you know, third-year wide receiver, and the guy was pissed about some Jets take that he had that I didn't hear. And Stephen A. Smith started off his response by talking about how successful his show has been. And his show is successful because they create that fake drama that's not there. They have these takes that are unrealistic and goofy, and he does it in a very flamboyant and loud way, not like Don Lemon's imitation. And that's a formula for making a lot of money and being the number one sports commentator out there. But his takes are shitty, and he's really annoying. But he's way smarter than Don Lemon's. Like, you know, there's still, I mean, anybody could see that of the two people. Stephen A. Smith is much more successful because he's smarter and he has a better personality. And even though I dislike him more than I dislike Don Lemon, I mean, it's harder for me to listen to Stephen A. than it is for Don Lemon's. He's clearly smarter than Don Lemon's, right? And he never said sucker. Let me go back here. 102. Here was the temptation.
About black people and things that for which he has no clue.
Yeah.
And he thinks because he's doing it like this, that people are going to listen to him. What's wrong with you? Sucker! I'm like, what am I watching? Is this Fred Sanford and Son? You old fish-eyed fool! I'm like, what is he doing? Seriously. So I tried to.
Sanford's Red Fox was better and funnier than both these guys. Red Fox was like a funny comedian. Like Red Fox had a joke where he goes, "We were so poor growing up, my dad would go outside on Christmas Eve, fire the shotgun, and come back inside and say, Santa Claus just committed suicide." Like that's fun. I mean, I've told that, I've repeated that joke probably about 10 times. I mean, he was one of the first sort of vulgar comedians, and he just had a way about him. That show Sanford and Son. I mean, even now I can watch it, but as a kid, watching him call his son dummy. I mean, I never would have get tired of that. You big dummy. I have that. Let's roll the let me do the memes here of Red Fox.
You big dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy. 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 Get lost, dummy.
Dude, and he's not the only one. There are people who are bordering on Stephen A. Smithisms out there who are, and you guys probably know what I'm talking about. It's just shocking to me.
You're not going to criticize them because they haven't gone after you, right?
This sort of cozying up to white people, and it's got to be for the money.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about it.
Because we talked about it.
This guy wrote a book about it here.
We talk about it. If I became a black conservative, I would be rich, like a gazillionaire.
Yeah.
Dude, they paid you $24 million to leave CNN. Like you're worth more than you should. Like now, But anybody can go pander to groups of people. Like anybody can do that. Like I could pander to Christians or Republicans or Trumpers or any number of people, liberals. I mean, if you can understand the demographic, right, you can pander to people. But I don't think this is why Stephen A. has been successful. In terms, his podcast is hard to watch, and he's got some kind of tour with Chris Cuomo's and Bill O'Reilly. Garrett Wilson is the guy's name. I knew it would come back around. But anyways, his takes just suck. Like, go after the guy like that other guy. That guy fucking eviscerated Stephen A. Smith, calling him a sellout in the way that he did and all that shit, right? I mean, everything that guy said is stuff that's true. And like, you're doing a horrible job. You just showed somebody like who was smart and could, that was insightful and could really say things that were damaging to Stephen A. Smith. And you come out with this bad imitation and you say sucker.
Or if I just went on and started like bashing black people just to bash them, and it seems that's become his stock and trade. And to make excuses for white people and to cozy up to people like Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah, what is he doing? What you talking about?
What are you doing, Stephen A?
What are you doing? Why? What are you doing, Stephen A?
What? Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing yourself all the way to the bank, but still, it's embarrassing for you.
Why don't you? You're embarrassing yourself for free, Don. I mean, you might as well make money on it. Stephen A. is definitely sort of a clown. I'm not sure how much he says about, I know he gets criticized a lot for, going harder on black athletes and less hard on white, this whole thing. And I don't know how much that pays off in terms of his takes. But, like it's a formula. They did the same thing on American Idol where there's fake drama. They would tell which two people were supposed to fight, and they would get into it, Simon and one of the other fucking American Idol people, and they have these things. They create fake drama. It's a whole formula, because it's content for dumb fucks. And you're all guilty of pandering to dumb fucks, which I talked about. I got some great comments to get into, reaction to my voiceover. You could go after an audience of people who can think for themselves and who, are aspire to be high at a higher level, or just speak truth that dumb fucks don't understand. Like when you pander to dumb fucks, you have a wide range of audience, and Don Lemons isn't speaking down to dumb fucks because most of his audience, I think, is probably smarter than him, but the majority of people are catering to dumb fucks, right? Because that's where all the money's at, and that's an easy audience to please. And you can just, you can move around the dumb fuck demographics and make a lot of bank. Anyway, so one more thing. Let's see this.
The ancestors for young black people and for all black people, he's one of those black people, like a number of the black people who are on the networks who white people think black people like but we don't. And so
Are you talking about yourself all across the board? Right? Like, I thought that Don Lemon's major audience at CNN was white people or gays to some extent. And then I didn't know who his audience was because he really didn't have one. But most of his audience came from Chris Cuomo, right? Chris Cuomo's show bled into Don Lemon's. Chris Cuomo was doing much better in the ratings than Don Lemon's. And he carried Don Lemon's through the ratings because as soon as Chris Cuomo left and they put on some shittier content, and Chris Cuomo was dumb, like a dumb douche. He's a douchebag. I mean, there was a great moment where Chris Cuomo came up from his basement and his wife's like, "Don't mount me." I'd show that here, but I'm not. I got too many memes to put in here already. But anyways, holy shit, Don. Like,
they put them up there. Let's put up John, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And we'll hear from the black community. And black people are like, I don't want to hear from him.
Right.
He don't
okay, but see, what you don't understand here is nobody on the news represents regular people. Like the white anchors on CNN, they don't act like normal fucking people. Only on New Year's Eve when you guys get drunk and you make fools of yourself, and then you're like worse than normal people. You're like normal people can't handle their fucking liquor. But the anchors, the news anchors, they talk in a way and they act in a way, and none of them are sincere or genuine. They all spin. They all use talking points. Name one fucking person out there that seems like a regular person, like a regular Joe, and certainly not Joe Scarborough on the news. Like all these guys, the newscasters in general act a certain, have this voice that they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to sound professional, and they get up there in their suits and their desks. That's why they're getting killed by podcasters. And Don is a little bit less like that now that he's on his own, but he's still stupid as fuck, and he still, talks about the same, remedial CNN type takes. But to say that people on the news don't represent their demographics, of course they don't. And you don't do that now. Like, Don isn't like some regular person. He's a fake fuck. Like, he's not. There's some people who they don't even know how to be authentic. They're so superficial and they're so worried about how they appear to other people. They don't even know how to act like themselves. They don't even understand who they are. And they they look around. Like Don Lemons is one of these people. He looks around and sees people are laughing and he laughs, having no idea why they're laughing. Like he doesn't know what's funny and what's not funny. I mean, even the way he was laughing at that guy's take, that guy just eviscerated Stephen A. Smith, and he's like, he kind of gets it, but doesn't really. And so, especially since his take is so much worse than the other guys, and so much more remedial. And so Don Lemon's like can't, they can't understand how to act. There's always this false front that they put out there. And that's what news people do, and people do on social media. And people, you have the way that you act at work, right? And everybody has to act differently at work. You can't be yourself at work. For most people, they can't be themselves at work, right? Like you guys all know that most of you guys have at least experienced that, and probably have to deal with that on a daily basis. You have your work persona. You have to be a certain way around older people. You have to be a certain way around younger people, right? And it's amazing to watch people try to, like when they're interacting with a different demographic, like a very stiff white person that is talking to black people and then tries to talk with a lingo or an accent, or if you're a northern person, you're talking to a southern person. People trying to change their personalities and adapt to what other people, the demographic they're talking to, because they can't be authentically themselves, and they just try to perform for whatever group they're in front of. And that's all these people on these news shows. I mean, they all play this part or this role, and none of them are authentic.
Represent us. And Stephen A. Smith does not represent us. Black people don't want to hear from him, networks. We don't like him. And it's not because he's black. It is because he's black. It's because he's black and he's a sellout. That's why we don't like him.
Oh, boom.
Go ahead.
Well, listen, I wrote a book about it called The Grift. I didn't mention him in the book, but I'll say this. You said
so why did you bring up your book? You brought up the grift, but you didn't include like the biggest grifter out there. You know. Anyways, let's move on to the next thing here. One of my viewers sent me this. Pretty funny.
Oh, I'm a human and I have to pay money to live on planet Earth, even though I literally evolved here. What are they doing? Go.
Oh, I'm a human and I've been conditioned by an oppressive system to believe that material things are what bring true joy. No, I don't. No, I don't.
It was pretty good.
Oh, I'm a human and I tell people I'm reading a new book, even though I'm just listening to it on audio because I lack the focus and attention span to read words on a page. That's not reading.
That's not reading. That's right. Give me that. Oh, I'm a human and I need privacy when I go to the bathroom. Don't watch me pee-pee. Don't watch me pee-pee.
They're animals. I got one more. Oh, I'm a human and I think everybody's looking at me and paying attention to me all the time like I'm the star of my own reality show. That's not true. You're not.
You're not.
You're not. Just live your life.
Be free.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have to use money. Yeah, it'd be great if this, but funny, well done. But it's not going to change anybody's behavior. But I appreciated the ideas here and the way the presentation was great. Okay, one of my viewers just sent me this. I just showed it to my wife. Really funny.
I don't know why guys need time to think before they answer your questions.
Well, first we have to realize you asked a question. Then we have to make sure we understood the question. Then we have to make sure the question's not a trap. Then we start formulating an answer. Then we have to figure out the best words to deliver the answer. Then we have to weigh the pros and cons of delivering the answer. Then we reevaluate, make sure the question's not a trap again, and then we deliver the answer. It's exhausting.
That's great. Okay, so, I said that I don't want to listen to Candace Owens anymore, but I still want to check up on this Mitch Snow stuff, and I figured out a way I could do this, right? I don't want to listen to her whole video, but I can search through the video using the transcript. And in a video that was posted, I believe, on Thursday, she mentions Mitch Snow, but in the most dickish way. So let me show you that. That way, again, this is sparing us both extra Candace Owens.
You aren't believing the story because we know what happens next. They do the Mitch Snow thing. Oh, she's crazy. She's making this up. It's all an illusion. Well, the good thing is that there's
like that arrogance in her look in her face, and she knows she's lying. Like she knows she gets rolled by Mitch Snow, because the guy's not fucking credible, right? And what she's saying then is that people will say, "Hey, look, she's doing the whole Mitch Snow again. She's making this up." Well, you did make it up because what she and her dumb fuck viewers keep on repeating is that he was at the base, Fort Huachuca. And that may or may not be the case. He sounds like he was there, based in any of these things being real or not. But him seeing somebody is completely based on his credibility. He has none. Mitchell has zero credibility. And he's done this sort of pattern of behavior before, making grandiose statements to her, things that couldn't be proven, that he was the one who found the tunnels. And he was special forces. He don't look like special forces. But he's a known grifter and liar, and he said all these things that aren't true. And, this has been outed by so many different people. And so he has no credibility. So his story about being at the fort has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk, right? And he'd have to have seen somebody there. And even if he did, that doesn't mean that they were planning Charlie Kirk's assassination. They're so far away from proving something. And then she's dismissing people like the fact that she could prove he was at the fort makes him legitimate. It makes her putting him on air legitimate, and neither are the case, right? And so for her to mock people over the Mitch Snow thing, but she's really not talking about him. Like her last couple of videos, and this whole week, she hasn't talked about Mitch Snow practically at all. There's, she mentions him once in this video, but she's not addressing the Fort Huachuca thing. Like that's gone the way of the fucking Egyptian planes and the French Foreign Legion. She might bring them back again because her audience still believes in that shit if she runs out of content. But, this is how grifters roll. This is how the Alex Jones models work. They come out with these outlandish claims, claim they have evidence and receipts that they don't, and then they get called on it and it gets debunked, or they can't go any further with it because it's a bullshit story, and then they move on to another thing just like it, and they might bring it back up or try to tie the stories together, like she tried to tie Charlie Kirk's story together by bringing in Brigitte Macron and her story, and her penis somehow murdered Charlie Kirk, and that the French Foreign Legion, the Pont family, and France was involved, because you need 3 countries to take down Charlie Kirk: Israel, America, and France. And then all these military personnel wearing maroon shirts, and like this kind of thing. And she just goes around and around, and it's definitely hurt the truth community. She did take down TPUSK, which you can give her some credit for because that actually happened, and she did have receipts for that. But that's a rare case, and that gives her more credibility to put out other things where she doesn't have receipts and it isn't based in fact, and the rest of it. So the other thing I searched for is Fort Huachuca, or just Fort, because the transcript, the AI's transcript, calls it Fort Wuka, Wuka, because it doesn't understand what's being said here. This look that she gives, right? She's just so histrionic, right? She has like a histrionic personality disorder, driven for drama and needing attention. But she talked about Fort Huachuca and people being involved in sex trafficking of minors, like pedophiles, there at the fort. Again, having nothing to do with any of these things, right? And not proven allegations. And then things she's saying about TPUSK, again, showing no factual evidence, right? That these things are all connected. And so, this is more of her giving credit to Mitch without giving actual, cover for him, just pretending there's cover. And then she says this thing at the end of it.
Who was an Army Intel psychological operations officer and an avowed Satanist. Because Paul Valley is also on the advisory board of Turning Point USA. Well, it doesn't matter as long as you got a big enough check. As we've learned, who cares if he worships Satan, okay? They're doing the kind of Christianity that can be bought, clearly. And yes, that is true, by the way, because I have looked into that. B. James, actually, I should add that. Skylar should make a note to military connections here.
Again, these are not real connections. They're kind of connections that sell to our audience. But, these are rumors or things that are said, or these people who have no real connection to each other here.
Because I do believe that he has some connection to Fort Huachuca as well.
You believe that they do? Of course you believe. It's good for your show. It gives validation to the fact that you got completely humiliated by giving Mitch Snow credibility, right?
Dive back into that. B. James.
We'll dive back into that when I have to make up some other bullshit, right? And so I'll go through the other videos, see if there's. But she's still using this in some way, like there's something connected here to TPUSK and Fort Huachuca and this whole thing. But, you don't need any of this stuff. Like, this is not what you need for assassination. You don't need layers and layers of complex relationships and organizations and more people involved and, all these other things. You just need, a team of assassins, Hitman and his team. And you don't have to do it in public because, only if you're wanting the public to see it for some reason, which of course they did. And so this whole thing, it's just silly. You don't need to make it into this thing, and you're never going to get to the bottom of it. You can come back in a year and she'll still be talking about Fort Huachuca every once in a while, dropping it like she's got some real validity behind it. So she mentions Fort Huachuca on Tuesday. So I didn't tune in on Tuesday and Wednesday because I don't want to watch, and I didn't search for anything either. I didn't search for the transcript because, I was just like, I've had enough. I have an aversion to listening to Candace Owens. Then the other day, I'm like, I wonder if she's still talking about Mitch Snow. I have a little bit of an interest how she's dealing with this, because I know she knows. I know she knows he has no credibility. But she's locked into it, just like all these other people. And she, talked about how embarrassed she would be if she just went out and lied like that, right? And, she's getting to the situation where she doesn't have real evidence. She has just internet rumors and, circumstantial shit. and she's going after Erica Kirk now in a way, and TPUS gay, but she doesn't have anything legitimate, so it's all these innuendos and bullshit kind of rumors and internet allegations and things with no real teeth to them. Which, TPUS gay sucks, and so does Erica Kirk, and they have to be involved, but this is what happens with all these things. You never get a smoking gun. If you do, nobody will look at it. Nobody who's going to be in the official story. Like, I saw this, I'm coming up and doing this whole thing with the, the thug fucking fake ICE guy, whatever the dude is that shot the woman in the face. And I was going to watch a little bit of the football game, and I forgot to tape it. So the TV was on CNN, and there's people debating. And there's one guy who actually made some sense. I have DirecTV, and I'm scrolling through to tape the game. It was early on, so, I don't like to watch commercials. And he was saying, all three of us people on your show are not journalists. We're commentators. We're pundits. And as journalists, your journalist who just came on here, your reporter said that, we're not quite sure whether the Trump administration, or it's unlikely that the Trump administration is going to investigate this guy. But he goes, we all know they're not, right? Like, we know we can say they're not because we're not journalists, because they never investigate anything, and they're clearly not going to investigate this guy, and they're not letting the state investigate this guy, so he's already gotten away with it, which, I cover later on in this thing, right? And that's the kind of world we live in, and Candace Owens is a part of that fucking, it's like where everybody knows the truth. She talks about when you know, but you know, but like you can't prove you know. And, she says all these things, but then she does the same bullshit that these people do, and she's just, she's deceiving her audience. It's always your audience that you're fucking over when you give them false information. Other people might get hurt by it, but they're the main target. Anyways, let's get back to it here. The Thursday video was the last video she put up. That's the one I showed you. The clips are there. So, this is a grifter still not wanting to admit they're wrong, still trying to bring things up like they didn't get exposed, and hoping their audience don't listen to somebody else, or their audience is too oblivious and too cultified to believe any of the other bullshit, the other stuff about Mitch, or any of these other people, right? But she says this here.
To believe that offer did indeed come through. We broke the story about Fort Huachuca, and we're not done with that. We presented the military police report, backed that up with evidence that Mitch was telling the truth about what happened on September 9th.
That's wrong. That he was telling the truth, that he was there at the base being evaluated as a possible terrorist because they thought he might have been bringing a bomb because he didn't belong there, right? So the only thing he was telling the truth about, that you could say he was telling the truth, is that he was there. And, whatever was in the report. And so him being there is, okay, he was there, right? Everybody was somewhere on September 9th. And you could say you were there at some place and you saw Brian Harpool or somebody else, Erica Kirk. And just because you were there, you can validate you're there, doesn't mean, that happened, like I said before, right?
We broke the story about the Egyptian planes, tracking Turning Point Faith. You
didn't break the story because other people were feeding them this information. And it isn't a fucking real story. Yeah, there's Egyptian planes there. You herself, all this other stuff here, the only thing that everything that happened before the Mitch Snow thing, she has herself already said it isn't real evidence and it isn't a smoking gun, because she's praying for God for something legitimate. And God hates her and sent her Mitch Snow to embarrass the shit out of her and demean her audience, right? Which I covered in other videos. So, this is classic, fucking grifting shit here. Because you take things that are true and then pretend that other things that are said or observed must be true as well. Mitch Snow being at Fort Huachuca means only that he was at Fort Huachuca. And none of the other things that he said are credible or have been proven. And even if they're proven, don't mean that those guys were involved in that. And it'd be one thing if she was a legitimate, responsible journalist and didn't abuse and lie to her audience, but she's already proven to be that other person, right? And she was, a person that is still pretending Charlie Kirk wasn't a piece of shit that was grifting for hundreds of millions of dollars for Israel to cover up a genocide and promote, more of our money going to Israel, even though he was a America First person, and that she didn't back Donald Trump even when his fake assassination attempt and these other things, where she was 100% wrong on, and now she's reversed herself about some of these things like Trump, only when it's too fucking late, right? Okay, so in this video, she doesn't mention Mitch Snow at all. Let me go to the video I was just, this was a video about Ben Shapiro. She doesn't mention Fort Huachuca. And then she's just throwing out shit. Let me go back to this other video here. Okay, so, one of the big things to say to this population is about pedos, right? Of course, with Jeffrey Epstein and all the rest of them. It is, something to throw that name, throw that term around and say that this place is an underground pedo operation. So it's something that these grifters always bring in now, right, as a part of this thing. So here
was speaking to the guy that used to run, I'm blanking on his name, Tim Ballard, that's his name, Tim Ballard. He used to run Operation Underground because he had gotten donation and support from Glenn Beck for Operation Underground. He was involved in
Glenn
that.
Beck's such another wonderful person, right?
I remember because I interviewed Tim Ballard about Operation Underground. Fort Huachuca Base, which has randomly come up because of Mitch. In general, they also are caught up in a child porn ring. That's a real story that has been an issue at Huachuca Base. And I'm showing you this article from CBS News. U.S. Army missed the red flags about a civilian leader who led a child porn ring and risked U.S. security. That person's name was David Frodsham.
Okay, David Frodsham.
He was a top civilian commander at a U.S. air base in Afghanistan. You can go on and you can see that it says that after he left his post, he returned to Fort Huachuca, which is a major Army installation in Arizona, blah, blah, blah. There is also Fort...
Yeah, the blah, blah, blah there is that this guy was involved in something as a civilian and that Fort Huachuca wasn't involved. Like there wasn't, the Erica Kirk thing. Like, these type of things, like Romania. There might be something there. There's, but people exaggerate them and they want to believe something regardless if the facts are there. And so, this is the way it is with all this stuff. It's a lot of it's speculation. There's pattern recognition, but there's, none of this stuff is going to be provable, right?
Huachuca Base, which gets involved in a scandal relating to child sex trafficking.
Well, how was it related? Let's go back to that article here. So again, there's just what Fort Huachuca is mentioned here. But this is CBS News, and CBS News, who now is run by whatever her name is, but not a legitimate source. We wouldn't consider CBS News a legitimate source. It's like with any of these things, when I show you a clip on CNN and MSNBC, it's always there that you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? But this is what she wants to hear, and she's looking for information about Fort Huachuca and the people there. That anything, one person who made a slip has an issue, and then she's trying to bring it in to validate this piece of shit Mitch Snow and his bullshitting stories, right? U.S. Army missed red flags about civilian leader who led child porn ring and risked U.S. security records show. This is in March of 2022. David Frodsham was a top civilian commander at U.S. Air Base in Afghanistan when Army commanders ordered him home after he investigated multiple complaints of sexual harassment. I would not recommend placing him back in a position of authority, but rather pursuing disciplinary action at home as his station, wrote one commanding officer when recommending that the Army order Frodsham to leave his post at Bargam Airfield and return to Fort Huachuca, a major Army installation in Arizona, according to U.S. Army investigative file obtained by the Associated Press. But when Frodsham returned to his home station in the fall of 2015, he rejoined the Network Enterprise Technology Command, the Army's information technology service provider, where he served as director of personnel for a global command of 15,000 soldiers and civilians, according to Army resume. By spring of the following year, he was arrested in Arizona for leading a child abuse ring that included an Army sergeant who was posting child pornography to the internet. The victims included one of his Frodshem's adoptive sons. Frodsham pleaded guilty to sexual abuse charges in 2016 and is serving a 17-year sentence. And so he got busted. This is somebody who actually went to jail for this, right? And he wasn't running it out of Fort Huachuca, right? That's something like it's, he was associated with Fort Huachuca, but this has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk, right? I mean, it's not good for Fort Huachuca. It's not good for the Army, but it's not like she's just grasping at straws, right? Trying to pull these things together. There could be a connection, but she's not going to prove one and doesn't even care if there's one or not. Like if there's information that showed that this, just like there was information to show that Mitch Snow wasn't credible, she doesn't show you that. She never does. She never shows you the other side of the story. She has a point of view, and she brings in whatever information that supports her point of view. She's the worst kind of YouTuber. She's the worst kind of social media person and fake investigator. She only puts the information that supports whatever she's going after and doesn't tell her audience the whole story, right? So, I showed you this video clip of her and Mitch Snow, and she says, Mitch, I can legitimize you were there. Like, you're definitely there, and I got all this corroborated evidence that you were there. What I can't legitimize is that you say you saw who you saw. And so, given that there's some time here, given that it might be a doppelganger, because she listed all these things that it could be, what is your percentage that you think that these people were the people you said you saw? And he goes, 95%. And she's like, 95%? Like, validating him, right? And he's like, well, maybe 99%, right? So, but what's the odds of him being a liar? I don't know, like fucking 99.999%? I mean, he's already lied about other things, like similar things. His wife's shit with his hammer and all that shit, right? And so, and oftentimes she doesn't even tell her audience that she doesn't have all the evidence. She makes him sound like it's a slam dunk. All she has is that Mitch Snow was there. I mean, she might not even have that because, but all right, so let's say she has that. That means nothing, right? And Mitch Snow is definitely not a reliable source, and she knows it. So, but these, dumb fucks want to hear what they want to hear, and people are being misled on the internet all the time. And if you're not very clear about these things, then, people will just read into them because they want to hear it a certain way, and they want it to validate them, and they don't really want the truth. Anyways, let's finish this thing up here. The military is often involved in seedy shit, and it's the government, and there's often freaks and pedophiles and, closeted gay dudes, and there's a lot of shit that's very seedy about the military-industrial complex, a lot of money. And there could be lots of scandals at Fort Huachuca that, would give, discredit the fort and the people, the commanding officers there and things like that. That still doesn't mean that they have anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination and that Mitch Snow is telling the truth, right? Either Mitch Snow saw somebody there or he didn't. And, based on his credibility, he didn't, right? You understand this? And so it's irresponsible to just go out there and find anything you can find to make it sound like that place is the kind of place that would do the Charlie Kirk assassination, right? And so that's what she does here.
Based in Afghanistan, you can go on and you can see that it says that after he left his post, he returned to Fort Huachuca, which is a major Army installation in Arizona, blah, blah, blah. There is also Fort Huachuca base, which gets involved in a scandal relating to child sex trafficking.
Okay, the base didn't get involved in that, right? The base itself didn't get involved in that. This guy was doing that, and then maybe he found some other people that were doing that as well. At least one other person. We don't know where that guy was stationed. But there's pedophiles in the Army. Like there's fucking, rapists in the Army. We know that, right? And so the fort itself isn't involved. Isn't like everybody in that station there is involved. And that's the kind of shitty stuff that she does, right?
Where Turning Point USA has their base where they actually decided to put the campus, if you will, Turning Point USA, just outside, literally across the way. There's a place known as Arizona Mills, which is like the #1 place for child sex trafficking, just like across the street. I want to be very clear here.
What do you mean the #1 place? Like they're just doing this in broad daylight and everybody knows about it, including you, but nobody ever busts them? like what? There was this, again, there was 50 people arrested at Disney World. And does that mean that there's a bit larger network there? It very well could be. Disney is very creepy. Disney himself, Walt Disney, was creepy. He had that real weird relationship with that boy that looks like it was a inappropriate sexual relationship. Walt Disney was sexually abused himself, physically abused. That's why he wanted to recreate his childhood like Michael Jackson did. But look at all the evidence that she's ignored about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was sleeping with boys and admitted to it. Like, he would bring boys that he wasn't related to over to his house, and there was, hundreds of them that he slept in the same bed with. Little kids without their parents, with a grown-ass man sleeping in bed with them. And she's going to say Michael Jackson's innocent? It's just totally like whatever she wants to say or make up, right? This guy, Andrew Tate, who was bragging about how he was better able to seduce men when he was scamming these men out of their, he's using women on the internet to scam them out of their hard-earned money by catfishing them. And the women weren't good at catfishing them and seducing them, so he had to take the keyboard over and seduce men and he bragged about that shit, right? Or Russell Brand, who's been accused of rape by multiple people. Like the same level of some of these things people have actually been busted and it's been proven, but that's to say the court system is 100%. Like she defends certain levels of people who are accused of these things, child trafficking, like Andrew Tate, who's friends with her husband. But then, when these other things come up, like TPUS Gay is right across from the biggest hub for pedophilia in the world. Well, yeah, but why are they not being busted then, right? Like just making shit up and throwing it against the wall.
Saying that, I'm making no connection there. I am not suggesting that Turning Point USA is trafficking children. Just want to be very clear. I'm just saying,
but like fucking then why bring it up, bitch, right?
Saying that everywhere I look in this story, themes of child sex trafficking come up, okay? Anyway.
Because you're looking for that. And it does come up because these are seedy organizations, and I'm sure TPUSK could very well be involved in that shit because they're all fucked up. These are all fucked up, twisted people, right? They're all evil people. But all the people she associates with, including being a past employee of TPUSK, and she worked for Ben Shapiro. Like, what fucking person would work for that piece of shit, right? Because it benefited her at the time.
I am wondering, regarding Eddie Farnsworth, if it is possible that Mitch saw him because he's a dead ringer. A dead ringer for Mark Amadei. When I saw this, I was like, whoa, doppelganger. This man looks like Mark Amadei.
Yeah, kind of. Like that, you're fucking reaching here. So you're saying that Mitch saw these people, that he is not, that Mitch is such an incredible, impeccable source, and that something he saw 3 months ago, where he was there to find out about his past, return to some 40, was at 30, that he was there 35 years ago. And 3 months ago, he went to this fort, and not until Brian Harpool was interviewed did he realize, and he started telling everybody, this guy who's been an attention seeker and a fucking grifter and always going to these podcasts looking for money, and he's lied about the story with his ex-wife and all this shit. I'm going to show the meme after this. And he's not a believable person at all. And she's validating the things that the people he has said he saw there, right? She keeps on doing this, and it's just like embarrassing, but she gets away with it because her audience is so fucking stupid.
He just, and I sent it to Mitch, and he said, yes, this man looks very familiar. Again, these are...
Yeah, of course he's going to say that. He wants to get back on your show. You're going to raise more money for him? Yeah, that guy too. He's willing to finger everybody, right? Bring him into the police lineup and tell me which guys you want me to say that I saw.
Not the people that he contacted me about, but I would like to find out if this could be a connection. I'd like to see if it's possible because the Farnsworth family has deep military ties as well.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you got him. You busted him. So this is never going to end up being anything because she just is taking a guy who's not credible and he'll say anything and then saying, well, he fingered this guy, and then she gets to say more bullshit about these people, right? And imply things. She doesn't really come out and say it. And again, there's no real evidence here. She's a fucking horrible person, right? Like, and she's a horrible person because she's just leading her fucking, she's like a Pied Piper leading her audience down this fucking abyss. Like I said before, she is the rabbit hole, right? All right, let's go to the Mitch and Candace meme here.
But then I said to myself, this man has lived through so much. You know what I mean? This man has lived through so much.
My wife neglects us, ignores us, and then screams at us on Saturday mornings.
And I would be turning my back on this, really a hero.
I didn't give you an asshole answer. I gave you a smartass answer. It's Saturday morning, and it's okay to be a smartass.
For discovering the cartels.
I have no idea where the keys are. Would love to know.
Who's lived through so much and has been treated like the government. And then I struggled with my own soul going, I'm turning my back on him because I'm afraid.
Touch that Mustang. Stop it!
Touched it.
Of backlash for allowing him to tell the truth.
You want to video record shit?
And so my soul was in conflict. And I decided that, you know what, this is not my platform, okay? I genuinely believe this is God's platform. I am a conduit. I don't know why I have a platform.
You want to threaten to hit my car with a hammer? God damn it! Marriage over, bitch. Goodbye.
And I don't know why you have this luck in life.
And she lured me in there and attacked me. Hit me with a hammer and, break my thumbs, my feet, back of my skull.
I really don't. I don't know why these things happen to you or why they happen to me.
Yeah, she took my keys, she took my phone, she went back inside and forced me to go back in and find out what was going on. Lures me to the garage that she pre-set up to be like a little prison.
But I know that my prayer was very intentional that night.
Then you stop it.
That I received that email. So I'm going to allow the internet to hear your testimony, hear what you think.
You know what? Do it all you want. Go ahead.
I don't want to. I want you to fucking start treating me better than you treat this car.
Everyone's like, what does this have to do with Fort Huachuca? Can Suge Knight see Brian Harple at a military base? Like, do I care about Suge Knight's history? What does this have to do with anything? This is just illogical.
But that's not what we were doing today. But you have to do this. You have to. Don't defend
ask you a question.
now.
I can defend myself all I want because you're being insane.
Ally with me, and I know how much you are already going through fighting them, and I intend to help you raise money.
What is so bad about being a smartass?
To go through these lawsuits with the federal government. I know this is not easy. I know what your kid has been through. I know what your wife has been through.
Mess with your car. I haven't touched this car in forever.
And no one should have to be through this, have to go through this because they told the truth.
You do.
Yeah, I've never done crap like that, Mitch.
Yeah. That's the thing. You do it all the fucking time.
No.
That's what you do.
You just beat our door in with a hammer.
Why are you videotaping me?
Why are you acting crazy? You want me to let you in and that's what you do?
And potentially stumbled upon something corrupt, did definitively stumble upon something corrupt. And I think the public will be with you because...
Yeah. So, she did that. And eventually I was hearing my son cry. I was worried about him, having her maul him with the dogs.
Boats and hoes.
So I searched Gemini for this, and it said there were these cases, surrounding that one case, the one guy that Candace Owens mentioned, who had a connection to Fort Wachua. And, but there's no connection with the base itself, right? And Candace Owens says a lot of things like, oh, I have a bad feeling about this guy, or my gut tells me this, or, it's these kind of things. And then presents some evidence or some headlines based in mainstream media coverage for people that she's going after, or people that, have crossed her, whatever she is, whatever the people that she's going after that used to be people she shilled for, like, Israel, for example, and Trump and these other people, right? So, says that she's disproved that Michael Jackson was a pedo, but the evidence against Michael Jackson and just how he acted and who he was as a person, and the fact that he bragged about bringing 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13-year-old boys over his house and sleeping in the same bed with them as an adult male, which is freaky, right? You know, at the very least, that's weird as fuck. And these adults who have now testified against him, many of them, and all the people he paid off who, you know, these kids' parents and things. So there is, you know, very subjective. Candace Owens, her spidey senses, her intuition and her gut feeling, and I just don't like this guy, and, you know, I don't trust this guy. I think this guy's a liar. And then presenting herself like she is a person that brings receipts and facts when she doesn't. You know, this is Alex Jones 101. It's what's plagued the truth community. I mean, she's saying on one hand, these people are not believable and not credible, but Mitch Snow should just be believed because he's providing information that is, you know, part of her so-called open, ongoing investigation and giving her something that is going to grab more of her audience of dumb fucks, right? Okay, ask Gemini if Mitch Snow was a credible witness. And, you know, Gemini doesn't have the capacity to look at this motherfucker and say he's not, right? But it was an interesting answer. The claims made by Mitch Snow regarding Fort Huachuca, and, you know, I'm having to say it right now because I can't remember the thing I made up. Fort Huachuca and the assassination of Charlie Kirk have become one of the most polarizing topics in U.S. media as early as 2026. In early 2026. Whether Snow is credible is currently a subject of intense debate between supporters of Candace Owens' investigation and critics like Alex P. Jones. I added the P. Below is his middle name is Prudence. Below is the breakdown of claims, the evidence of the factors affecting Mitch Snow's credibility. The allegations, a secret meeting at Fort Huachuca. Mitch Snow appeared on the Candace podcast in December of 25. His primary claim, physical presence at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, on September 8th, 2025, 2 days before Charlie Kirk's assassination in Orem, Utah. The claim, Snow alleges he saw Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, Brian Harpool, Kirk's security guard, and Representative Mark Andami in a senior level meeting on a hotel lobby on the base. The implication Candace Owens has used this testimony suggests these individuals close to Charlie Kirk were meeting with military government officials shortly before his death, implying a broader conspiracy rather than a lone wolf attack by the accused shooter, Tyler Robinson. Factors supporting credibility. Military background. Mitch Snow was a retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant and a former combat medic. That makes sense. He was a medic, right? And so he's claiming that as a medic, he discovered these tunnels. And as a medic, he's there to patch people up and whatever else, right? You know, he has kind of a nurse vibes. His supporters argue that his service record and training and observation make him a reliable witness. Well, you know, except that all the stuff that we've seen about the hammer stuff. Detail of testimony, Snow has been very specific about the locations and the people he claims to have seen, stating he is 95% to 99% sure of his identification of Erica Kirk. Multiple high-profile figures and evidence logs have challenged Snow's account, verified alibis. Erica Kirk has provided digital evidence, text messages, and metadata suggesting she was at home and discussing dinner plans with Charlie at the exact time Snow claims to have seen her in Arizona. You know, it would behoove her to be at home with Charlie, even if they had a fake marriage or whatever the fuck was going on there, the night before, just because you wouldn't want to be at a fort or near a fort and be away from him when you're supposed to be taking care of his kids. You know, that you're not traveling with him to Utah because you're taking care of the kids, right? I mean, it would just be smart if you knew this thing was coming to be where you're supposed to be and not in a suspicious place. Brian Harpool and Representative Mark MD have both publicly denied being at the base and provided records of their location elsewhere. Allegations of past misconduct. Alex Jones of InfoWars has become Snow's most vocal critic, labeling him a con artist and a serial woman abuser. Jones alleges that Snow has a history of fabricating stories for attention, has manufactured a hoax, narrative to help Owens. To date, no security footage, false manifests, or corroborating witness have placed the accused parties at Fort Huachuca on those dates. The feud between Candace Owens and Eric Kirk has escalated. There's some evidence here that there's none of these things that can corroborate his story. Which I just whatever, we know that already. The feud between Candace Owens and Eric Kirk has escalated. Erica Kirk has escalated since the ceasefire was broken earlier this month, while Owens insists the unanswered questions remain about security gaps at Utah Valley University. The mainstream consensus, supported by figures like Ben Shapiro and Alex Jones, is that Mitch Snow's testimony lacks the smoking gun evidence needed to overturn the official narrative of assassination. Would you like me to look at the specific alibi evidence of metadata? And I said yes. The debate over Mitch Snow's credibility has hit a fever pitch this week. Many are calling the metadata war, as today the central conflict evolves around the text message thread released by Turning Point USA, that's my adding, intended to prove Erica Kirk was at home in Florida or Utah, Erica was at home in Florida, Utah, not at a hotel lobby in Fort Huachuca, Arizona on September 8th. To counter Mitch Snow's testimony, TPA USA Justin Sharif released a series of screenshots and data logs, and the logs purportedly showed a conversation between Charlie Kirk and Erica. The content, the message suggests a mundane conversation about Erica was preparing for dinner and Charlie's arrival time from a local meeting. The timeline, the timestamps on the messages align perfectly with the window Mitch Snow provided in the interview with Candace Owens. Candace Owens has publicly rejected these alibis leading to the current ceasefire violation with the Kirk family. Her skepticism is based on three main technical and logical points regarding the digital evidence: that somebody's name was blocked out, the metadata integrity, claims the logs were verified by a third-party digital forensics, and the burner theory states that she used cryptic apps for standard family communication. The blacked out name was the name blacked out if your text is just what Candace Owens said. Okay, this is silly. I just went for a walk with my wife, but I'm going to go make dinner. Just to wrap this part up, I got one more thing to read here in a second, maybe, if it has anything of interest. But this part is silly because, number one, Erica Kirk's a piece of shit, and you know how I feel about her. And I believe whatever truth there is to any of this stuff about Charlie Kirk's death and any of, whatever's happened here or not, that she would have to be involved in any kind of conspiracy because, an outraged widow that is looking for the truth would be, the worst possible thing that you could have if you're going to do this. So she would have to be involved. And she'd probably have to be a fake wife and be some sort of a handler, agent, whatever. Intelligence community person, some kind of whatever her role was here. And so, I think that that's pretty reasonable and pretty logical. I mean, as logical as you could get about any of these different theories. But in terms of her being a part of this meeting at Fort Huachuca, I think he said he saw her at a hotel, which would mean there are multiple security cameras and other things that would show she was there, and she doesn't even have to answer these questions. It's silly to answer them because this guy's not fucking credible, right? So, Candace Owens is going to find fault no matter what because, she just wants to throw shade on this whole thing. But even a more logical understanding of this, aside from that Mitch Snow has no credibility, is that why the fuck do they need Erica Kirk 2 days before the assassination to be a part of the planning or whatever the fuck they're doing there? Like, why does she have to physically be present at Fort Huachuca with these other people, even the security guy? Because they're still planning this thing out, and Erica Kirk has something to offer these military personnel as they carry out this assassination, right? It's silly. Like, why would she have to be there? Especially with the way that you can communicate and secured, Signal or some of these other apps in a secured way, which you could communicate. And, she doesn't need to be a part of that. She knows what her role is, and she's got her handlers and whatever she would need to be there. It's silly. Like, this whole thing's silly because Mitch Snow has no credibility. And the bottom line is, even if they were there, that doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean that they had a plot or anything like that. Like, who knows why they would be there and, whatever. They would look suspicious, but that's all it would be. It wouldn't be anything convictable. It's not, it's not evidence that, you'd have to be able to get in there and find out meetings and watch videos and, inside the fort and talk to people involved. And you need whistleblowers that would show evidence. And even then, it's probably not enough. But right now, it's all circumstantial. And really, there's no evidence at all other than some clown that's completely not believable, who have alibis, right, whether they're believable or not. It's illogical Eric would be there. And, like, again, she wasn't even at the fort. She was in the area, so, according to him. And, the guy's a attention seeker, which we've seen. Anyways, like, this is what Candace Owens has devolved to. It's the same things that Alex Jones employed that degraded the truth community but brought him a lot of attention and success among dumb fucks and QBs and these types of people. Anyways, let me move on to the comments here. Okay, ate dinner, got a break here, and I just want to wrap this up. I'm going to do a few comments, and then I'll continue what's left of this video tomorrow, if there is anything else. The one more thing I wanted to say about Mitch Snow and Candace Owens and all this stuff. If people saw Mitch Snow, he was on that one show that got like 2,000 views. It was a really lame show on Rumble. But if the majority of people saw this guy and he came up with this story about Erica Kirk and all this other bullshit, no one would believe him, right? Like, it would just, there would be, he'd get no credibility. There'd be no, this wouldn't be something that Erica Kirk would have to answer and provide evidence that she was, whatever she was. No one would buy this fucking guy. Maybe a few dumb fucks here or there, but the majority of people, 99 out of 100 or more would say, yeah, this guy's full of shit, right? They would see through it. But, Candace Owens and her dumbass is over there, and, they're so desperate to confirmation of their worldview and their beliefs here, and that's, and they buy into Candace's bullshit. But then when the, I sent my meme over to Gemini, and they talked about all the inconsistencies that have gone back and forth. And then it goes to point number 4. I'm not going to read 1, 2, or 3. The latest Blow to Snow story isn't a verbal contradiction, but a character one. On January 7th, 2026, a video alleging Mitch Snow involved in a hammer attack went viral. The contradiction, Snow presented himself as a principal whistleblower and a calm military professional, are using this video to argue that Snow is a vital and unreliable actor whose story is a product of mental instability instead of factual observation. All right, so, either can see it or you can't, but the fucking, these dumb fucks are, they're not going to see it. 2 great comments here I wanted to get to. So, this person's a flat earther. Katie Vance, she's trying to run him over with the car, what this psyop is really. Planet. Yeah, I knew this was a flat earth comment because the person writes, planet, aha, aha, ha, ha, aha, aha. A-H, 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 A-H. I did an epic voiceover, which I guess I had said somewhere there. In the beginning, that was an epic voiceover. And this person is a flat earther, and so, there's a lot of good stuff in that voiceover. And I, one of those things where I just, I'm well rested and I see things really clearly. Anyways, I think it was a great voiceover, and there's a lot of stuff in there. But you lose flat earthers as soon as you say planet, right? Firstly, you are fast asleep dreaming you are awake, buddy. The globe is a lie. Secondly, you're an egomaniac. Everything you say about how clever you think you are and how dumb everybody else is. I never said those words. You know nothing after all these years. Still a fucking idiot. Still a fucking idiot. So how long have you been stalking me, bro? How long have you been stalking this egomaniac? So you've been watching my videos for years, and Not really commented. Probably been banned a few times because of your flat Earth bullshit stuff. But like, you can't be triggered when people say planet. Like, you can't dismiss everything else that's there. Like the stuff that's in there. I mean, I think it's like an hour and 15-minute voiceover. It's one of the better ones that I've done. And, I think they all have good things in there, and many people agree, right? But you wouldn't know that because you lose your shit when someone says planet. And you don't have a working model that the Earth is flat. And so I've said before that Earth is a simulation, that it's illusionary. Our third dimensional bodies, the physical world, is not what we are. We're a soul. And we're in this, this third dimensional reality with its limitations and experiences. It's like a video game would not be a sufficient description, but, Earth is a simulation. And I've had, whatever experience with the soul. And I don't take anything too seriously here because of that. But, these flat earthers lose their shit, right? And I'll address the egomaniac part of the comment here because there's another comment where the person says, who says what you think is right? You are holier than thou. Who the fuck are you? Some person wrote, see, you're just too stupid to understand. You definitely have a bias. And that's the same person that wrote the flat earth thing, I think. And then the person wrote underneath, a better person than you. And then that person followed up with, provide evidence or something like that. Actually, that's not the same person that wrote the flat earth thing. Said provide evidence of that I'm the better person than he is. But, this person wrote this comment with, who says what you think is right? Who says? You are so holier than thou. Who the fuck are you? Now, I don't think anybody would describe me as holier than thou. I've been called a grifter, a holier than thou, and an egomaniac. There was another comment, I think, maybe those are the two ones, I don't know. But there was some reaction to the videos in which I was talking about, two videos I talked about my IQ and the other things. And that person saying that I was an egomaniac had to do with that. And so, the point of what I was saying, if people listened to the end of it, which I don't think either of these people were, what had happened was I was talking about how, like, a lot of these people, and I was doing it in a kind of a bullshit mocking way, like fucking, a dickish way, but still funny. That these people who leave these hostile comments, and they're just so wrong about everything, and they don't understand what I'm saying. Again, if you don't understand what I'm saying, well, that's problematic. Like, if you have to misrepresent what I'm saying, then, like, that's fucking, that shows you're having your own butthurt emotional reaction, and you're a dumb fuck and don't know what I'm saying, right? And, I was making a comment that these people just don't, they're trying to think for themselves, they just suck at it. They're trying real hard for critical thinking and to make their own minds up, but they really can't do it, so they just kind of, paraphrase other people, or, they're pretending to be like original thinkers, but they're coming in with their own, with stuff that other people would say, and, traditional bullshit stuff, you're a shill, and, these kind of things. Just repeating what other people say, and they just, their definitions and their insights are just, off, because they don't have the capacity to think for themselves. And when I said that, one of my viewers said, the average, she looked it up, and the average IQ was 100. And, and I expanded that, and I asked Gemini about that and some of these other things. And, when I was a kid, I was tested, and my IQ was like 143 or something like this, which is the only thing that I heard from the report, and I didn't really think much of it until, like, later on in life or whatever it might be. But I talked about how when I was in high school, I didn't apply myself, and there was really smart kids there. Kids who were much better academically than I was at school. But in terms of my perceptual things, my pattern recognition, and having dyslexia, they gave me the test because they thought I was retarded, right? So, which is something that happens quite often with dyslexic people. They're labeled as, fucked up and stupid. And many people who are really successful are dyslexic. And then not because I'm dyslexic, that's a fact, right? And these are all factual things. And the other thing I pointed out is that, I've meditated for a number of years, and I outperformed all these people in the Saj Marg system, many of whom were just more devoted to God and more saintly people and more service-oriented people I looked up to, people who I would have said are much better at me than Saj Marg system. But, they didn't get the truther stuff, and they couldn't think for themselves, and they, and even if they didn't think for themselves, in the tradition of Saj Marg meditation and tradition of Indian guru and disciple, because there's gurus and disciples in many of their various spiritual and religious output. They have more saints and more spiritual people in India. It's just a great place to meditate. And the relationship between the guru and disciple, not just in terms of spirituality, but in terms of a guru that's a teacher, like the teachers of archery and Mahabharata. There was, people who taught these people, these young princes and these, wealthy people's children, not only about warfare, but taught them, educated them, and anybody who was a teacher. Guru is another word for teacher. And they have such reverence and respect for their elders that for Daji to shit all over his previous, his spiritual master and the previous master, and them to, allow that to happen and not, it was just such a fucking fail. And, I don't know exactly what every one of these people are doing, but for the most part, there's been a system-wide, organizational-wide failure to adapt and do something about, like, basically what's been a hostile takeover of a, organization that we all contributed to through, work, through, sweat equity in terms of spiritual equity and our, putting in years and years of meditation, and have some piece of shit come in and steal the properties and grift and do all that shit. And these guys have not been able to even admit what's going on, right? And so it was a real fucking blow to me, in terms of, like, I thought these people were, competent spiritual people or whatever. But I think people can say that I am intelligent, right? I'm smart and, I'm in the upper fucking whatever it is. I mean, I'm not a genius. I'm not a fucking 160, 180 IQ person, and I'm glad I'm not, because most of those people are really low functioning. But in terms of my understanding of things here that I can speak about relatively easily, there's been some kind of, not only like potential that's been realized, but also my abilities to read people and my abilities to see things and recognize patterns is at a high level. And at least I would have 120 IQ, somewhere between 120 and 140. As you get older, it dips. But people with 120 IQ are in the 90th percentile. And there's a level of honesty and a level of, where I just say things that many people in the truth community don't say. And, people are, they don't want to, they know Trump's a piece of shit, but they go along with it anyway. And, all these people that won't call out certain things or won't say certain things or whatever it is. And so, what I was trying to say in all that is, if I'm in the upper echelon mentally in terms of, in terms of intelligence, and certainly spiritually, because I've meditated 24,000 hours or whatever I calculated in that recent video. If I'm in the upper echelon, we're fucked. I think that's what I said, in the end of the video. Like, it kind of stunned me. This whole idea that people have that you're going to come out and you're going to expose truth in some video, like it's the Alex Jones InfoWars approach, that you're going to expose truth to people. And when you expose this truth, somehow those people are going to do what you can't. People who are late to the party, people who have been sticking their head in the sand for years, and when you finally wake up the fucking sleeping, the sleeping sheeple, and all these dumb fucks, like all these flat earther dumb fucks and the rest of them who are, supposedly awake. But when you bring everybody to reality that those people are able to do things you can't, they're able to solve problems that can't be solved, right? And so, the reality is, if we can't do anything, and I know personally I can't do anything, and because nothing can be done, and that these people who are the so-called elite, they're not, smart, and they're not evolved, and they're not conscious, and they're psychologically fucked, and many of them are, they receive their money through inheritance and, whatever it might be. They're, billionaires because someone else made the money when, who was successful in their family, like these kings, and then they have shitty little princes and princesses. They're spoiled and entitled, and, they have no leadership characteristics. You ever see that first the first Gladiator that came out years ago, the movie Gladiator, and the River Phoenix character, not River, Joaquin Phoenix character, and he's the villain, and he says, his father said, to be a good leader, you need these 4 qualities, and it was like strength and virtue and compassion and, whatever it is, bravery, whatever. And he said, as soon as he said that, I knew I didn't possess any of those qualities. But he was inheriting the throne and, that kind of bullshit. But my point was, it's kind of clear to me now that I'm frustrated with all the dumb fucks because it's just the comments and the shitty content and the Candace Owens bullshit and the Alex Jones bullshit and certainly the mainstream media. It's so fucking lowbrow. It's so untruthful and it's so stupid. And the people who are lapping all that content up. And so, even if I was in the top 10% of spirituality and, whatever it is, doing what I do here in the truth community, I know my limitations and my capabilities and my fucking, whatever it is. And if I'm the fucking, in the upper echelon, and spiritually, I can say I am in terms of just being a part of the Sajmark system for years. And, it elevates you on a conscious level if you put in the time and effort. And I've done that, even though I'm a slacker and all these things. And so I know we're fucked. Like, I know I'm not capable of doing anything, really. I'm just, I'm a piece of shit now. And, and I was a bigger piece of shit. Now I'm maybe a little bit lesser than. And so, there's no egomaniac here. It's just a realization that if I'm a part of the example of some of the best humanity has to offer. I mean, and I said in my material life on every, aspect of it, I would be considered a failure. My family failed. I didn't have any sort of real career. And, I've been an underachiever my whole life, but I feel like like my one good characteristic is that, one of them is that once I started following the spiritual path, whatever God wanted me to do, I've done. And so, I have that going for me. But, that's not going to change the system. And so, that was the whole point of the thing. And if people can't understand that, there's no sense of me bragging or being arrogant. It's a matter of frustration. And, like I said in the video, I wish I was the lowest person in the world. Like if I was the lowest, if I was in the lowest 10%, or if I was the worst person, that means that humanity would be doing a lot better, right? Like, it'd be happy for me if everybody passed me by spiritually. I feel like there's no competition in spiritual growth. I mean, the ego's the ego, but on a spiritual level, people get competitive and jealous on material level. But on a spiritual level, it's a gift for everybody when somebody evolves. And it would be great to be the worst person in the world, right? Like, if you were the worst person in the world, like, everyone else would be like, have to coddle you. Like, you could be such a low expectation having motherfucker if you're the worst person in the world. It's still, all these other people are like, the world would be a wonderful place if you were the worst, right? Like, all these other people would be better and nicer and, more efficient and all these things. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So we're fucked. And that was the point of what I was saying. All right, so I'm going to put this one to rest for tonight. And then I'll start working on another video, the rest of this video tomorrow. Okay, so this is Crazy Ask Gwen Walz. As long as we're focusing on Minnesota, I answered a long comment and I made clips to, expose the bullshit thinking of these. He was in the self-defense, the self-defense bees, right? That this thug somehow was acting in self-defense. Again, it's fake, but like in terms of the show, no, it's not self-defense. If you're watching the show and this was what happened, and I kind of destroyed this guy's whole thing here. And that's coming up. I've already done that. But I want to show you two things here. Crazy ass Gwen Walz. Like, holy shit. Like, just her fucking... Like, how did they let this fucking happen? Didn't anybody, like, look at this bitch and go, yeah, we can't run... I mean, Tim Walz was a fucking disaster. So, unless they were trying to lose, which kind of looks like they were.
What kinds of things are you hearing out on the campaign trail? Because I know you've been going to blue areas.
I don't know, Katie. What are kind of... Jesus Christ.
And to red areas.
Red area.
Are you noticing a big difference in people's concerns?
I ask people to tell me a little bit about their story.
I do, their story. Look at her fucking crazy ass eyes here. Like, just...
Story. And I like that as an English teacher. I think stories are most important, and I try to share a bit of my stories in my remarks that I'm giving or when I'm answering.
Regardless of what she's saying, she fucking presents as so batshit crazy.
Answering a question. Because I think in our stories, we identify what we value. And what I still see across this country is that we value the same things.
We do value the same. It's crazy. We value the same fucking things.
We value democracy.
Democracy, we do. Democracy.
We value reproductive
rights. We all want to fucking kill fetuses. We do. We all fucking do. We love killing fetuses.
freedom. We value children in schools. And
we do. We love the kids in schools. The schools and children and schools. We love children. We love schools, and we all do. We all value those things. Every one of us is pro children and pro school and pro killing fetuses and pro democracy. We all do. Those are our values.
And food and housing and how we get there, we may not see it the same way. But that's the dialogue we have to get back to.
Let's get back to that dialogue, because dialogue works so well. The internet, you go on there and you see how people are willing to listen to other people and other people's views and beliefs, and they never get mad at other people and their beliefs, and they're always open to other people's points of view, because that's just how America is.
So I encourage people when they're door knocking or phone calling.
They're door knocking. I'm a big door knocker. I like to door knock the shit out of
or campaigning to tell their stories. And let's work on finding some of those commonalities.
Why don't you tell your story about how you married to a gay dude and that you lost your mind? Okay, so this is the QAnon shaman.
This is Jacob Chansley.
Okay, what language is that? What are you chanting there, Jacob Chansley?
Better known as the QAnon shaman.
Better known as the QAnon shaman.
He became known around the world after the January 6th attack.
Remember that? He stood out. That guy popped. He was probably the most recognizable January 6th there. I mean, the guy just came through.
There he is. That's the QAnon shaman.
There he is. So this is Donny O'Sullivan. Every Irish viewer that has come onto my channel who's mentioned Donny O'Sullivan said that back in Ireland they consider this guy a wanker, as most of us do here in America. Donny's job is to go on CNN with Brian Stelza, two freaking beta males who, very effeminate, estrogen, on the verge of lactating. Let's just fucking say it. Brian Stelza and Donny O'Sullivan. Donny's job is to go and shit on truthers in this shitty show called Reliable Sources that went off the air, and maybe it was back on the air or back off the air. I don't know. They gave it a second try. And, he's just horrid. They have these guys now. They have their specific people who are experts on the truth community. They wouldn't even pretend. They pretended the truth community didn't exist, even though it was dominating YouTube for years in the, from 2005, 7 to 2012, 13, 14, when, Alex Jones appeared on CNN and they started to recognize, and of course, Alex Jones is a piece of shit show. But these guys, these two Mensa candidates are going to come together here.
How are you doing?
Doing all right.
Okay, is that what kind? Is that an official? He's got. Did the Native American headdress involve red, white, and blue feathers? Right? This doesn't look like it's what are you doing here, bro? He's got red, white, and he's got American flag glasses, and he's got a fucking. The Native Americans aren't that fond of America, this America, the fucking right wing America, right?
About yourself.
Ahead of the 5-year anniversary of the Capitol attack, I went to Phoenix to see what he's up to now.
He's bald.
Are you still a Trump?
All right, so here, this is, people confuse this with a pedal symbol here.
Supporter?
I went to Phoenix to see what he's up to now.
So you guys saw that, fuck. Let's see if I go back. Oh, Jesus. Here we go. Yeah, so this kind of looks like one of the pedo symbols on the FBI pedo list. You know, this guy is supposed to be anti-pedo, but he's going to answer this question here.
Are you still a Trump supporter?
No. I thought you knew that.
I thought you knew that, Tony. Tony, like, we're friends, bro. Don't you follow me on Insta?
Why not?
The man alone refusing to release the Epstein client list was enough for me and I think a lot of other people to be like, okay, this is bullshit.
It's bullshit, Tony.
Jake pled guilty to obstruction of an official proceeding and was sentenced to 41 months in prison. He was later pardoned by Trump.
I mean, fucking, and talk about ingratitude. I mean, Trump sent you up there and set you up and then bailed on you. And then 4 years later, after you were in jail, he pardoned you and you got in your turning on him just because the Epstein list sounds pretty fucking weak to me, dude. QB shaman.
Looking back on Jan 6 now, how do you feel? Do you have any regrets?
Okay, so then he's got these multiple triangles, not really, you know, the pedal symbols that were listed on the FBI. I mean, it's not a pawn. Is he rocking a pawn down here? But all this stuff, the fake Native American headdress, bricks on the arms.
Do you regret that you went?
Not at all.
Even though you had prison, all that stuff?
Even though I had prison and all that stuff. No regrets. I don't live with regret.
Did you ever identify as the QAnon shaman?
Never.
I never identified as that. I don't identify as that. I'm not a they, them. I'm not a QAnon shaman. I don't identify.
Not once.
But you were a Q follower?
Well, kind of. I had a sign that I carried around with me for a little while that said Q sent me, but that...
Yeah, like, no, this is not a little while. This is your entire moment of fame. Like, when you were a national figure for a brief period of time, your most infamous moment, your claim to fame was going to the Capitol carrying this fucking sign. And so that's how people are going to see you, that you are, you know, with your fake fucking, I mean, you're not a shaman, bro. Like, and you know, now he doesn't know anything to do with Q or Trump. And, you know, you could have asked me about both of those things during that period of time, and I would have told you the same exact thing as I say now, because I was right, you were wrong.
That was because of the meme Q sent me.
A key part of
the meme Q sent me.
QAnon's conspiracy theories are claims of a child-abusing cabal of elites. Now, like many of its followers who are loyal to Trump, Jake has stopped supporting the president because of his initial resistance to releasing information about Epstein, a convicted sex offender.
One thing, and if you
go ahead,
don't mind me, one thing that QAnon has done, right, is to like insert so much
so the triangles here,
confusion and
Yes.
disinformation about like who was actually involved with Epstein, that then it's just now impossible to know what the
Yeah, that's true, Dory. One time I agree with you. You, like, you when you're inappropriately manly sunglasses.
The idea here is anybody can have a story, anybody can have a theory. But the water is so convoluted that the truth...
Yeah, because of fucking QBs, right? The QBs wrecked the truth community, bro. People like you. Crazy fucks that just came out and just did stupid shit. Like, you are the epitome of why the truth community... If the wrecking the truth community was a person, it would be you.
will never be officially established.
Yeah, it's never going to be officially established. I mean, even if you guys didn't wreck the truth community, you're never going to have this stuff be, you know, the official story. If the official story would take down the system, I mean, it would fuck everybody. You know, when they start, if the official story was the truth, the system would collapse. If the people who are in charge of the official story told the truth, the system would collapse. And nobody really wants that. So it's just silly. Like this, you know, expecting the official story of a system that's based in lies. You know, this is the official story collapsing. Somebody coming up like Trump or whoever it is, not Trump because he's not credible. All the people that are supposedly credible going on all the news stations, all the network news, and the people on the network news themselves all saying this. Everything in the system's a lie, and our system's an illusion. Our monetary system is an illusion. Our culture is fucked, and everything is manipulating you to do the wrong thing. And our religion, all these things are all bullshit. And have a nice day, right? Like, so, everything you believe is a fucking lie. Have a nice day. And so that would be, if you really want them to say that. Like, you want them to say that? You think that would be great? You think that would work out well? Where people are like, okay, great, everything's a lie. Let's just go back to it. Let's go back to sleep now. So, I mean, either way, it's like either people would not receive it or it would take down the system. But either way, it's not going to change shit, right? Admitting that everything's a lie isn't going to change shit. Because without the lie, you have no system. Okay, so this looks a little bit like the QAnon shamans. It's hard to find this on Google anymore. I searched for it over here. They have this like one here and some of these other ones. But this looks like the thing Joseph Chansley was racking. This is Boy Lover. And then there's triangles similar to what he had, right? So maybe I'll put a picture up to compare these two things. This one here and then this one. It's close enough to where, come on, bro. Like, what are you doing here? I mean, what's the purpose of your tattoos? They have some printed here on a quarter. The Pope wore some of these symbols, but they are, this was released, classified, unclassified images that came from the FBI. But, now it's used to be able to find these quite easy and not on Google anymore. Okay, not greetings, but today is a new day for me. Sunday, January 11th, I started making this video yesterday. And one of my viewers left me a comment I want to address. I don't even say one of my viewers, just, somebody. And it has to do with this shooting. A couple of comments I want to get to do with this shooting thing. So here's this guy dealing with this woman, and his weapon isn't drawn, right? There's the guy that is, if you see law enforcement, if there's two cops approaching, these guys aren't cops, right? Cops don't fucking have masks on and, all the stuff that this ICE stuff has, right? Covering their faces. So this cop has just circled the car and had what kind of, he got a tongue lashing by the woman's lesbian wife. I don't know, it's two wives or two husbands, one husband, whatever it is, lesbian wife. And he has walked around the car this way, which, for a guy who's been dragged by a car. And one of my viewers pointed out that the guy, what happened, and I agree with this. Like, I thought this myself and didn't say anything about it. Or maybe I said something about it, not to this extent. But, he was, they say this guy, and you don't know who he is. So this is the Trump-led Justice Department under Kristi Noem, or the ICE agents under Kristi Noem. We'll get into all that because that's kind of interesting as well, right? That he was trying to arrest a immigrant pedophile. Right? I mean, just, could you be more like, okay, maybe he was a drug dealer too, you know what I mean? Like, but that's their story. Like, there's no way to validate the story because no one knows who this guy is, right? I mean, there's people who are outing this guy's name, but we don't know if they actually has his actual name or whatever. But he, you always see cops standing back a little bit further. Like, he's right next to this woman. She could be drawing a weapon. Now, this guy's standing in a position to shoot her, right? Usually you'd see if two cops, they both approach and they're both behind the window here and the passenger window. They're making sure there's no one here in the back seat with a loaded weapon or something, right? And they want to stand where, when you're facing forward in a car, it's hard to turn around and shoot somebody. And so, when some guy can I see your license and registration? He says, get the fuck out of the car, right? So this is not cops, right? Walking up and saying, get the fuck out of the car. This woman who's being a douche, she deserves whatever she deserves. I'm not, I disagree with protests on every level because it only makes things worse. Like if, like fucking, you notice how when you strip a screw, you're trying to get a screw out and it's stuck and you're just stripping it. And now it's like way harder to do your job because the screw is fucking stripped. And now you got to get like vice grips or something, get the fucking thing out. You got to figure a way other than the best way to get it out, which is unscrew it. And you're just fucking trying to power the thing and it's just stripping it more and more. And you're like making it harder and harder on yourself. And so, that's like one example of protest. Like you're just, whatever they want you to protest, right? And certainly they want you to protest now when they're doing things that are going to make you protest. And so, again, don't agree with her. But this guy he approached this other guy behind him, that's not this mask guy, but the guy with the mask over his mouth, he was dragged by a immigrant pedophile because he punched through the guy's window, which is not fucking the way that you're supposed to. When have you ever seen a cop do that, right? When I was in India, I saw that. I was on a bus, and some Indian cop ran up and smashed the guy's window with a billy club, and the bus driver ran out, and we were like, fucked, and I recently told that story, right? But I've never seen that, I've never seen a cop punch out a window. And he was grabbing the guy while the guy still had access to his accelerator. And, this is this story. Like, this is their story. But that's not fucking police procedure. He's punched through the window. He's grabbing some legal immigrant pedophile. And the guy drags him and his arm gets cut. And, he should be reprimanded for his fucking, again, these aren't cops, which we'll get into in a bit. This is ICE, but, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, right? And so he shouldn't be standing here unless he wants to shoot her in the face. Like, he's perfectly positioned to do what he's going to do, which is to shoot her in the face, right? Because this is where he has, like, this guy would have trouble. His weapon's not drawn. He's just talking to her. Like, he doesn't consider her a threat. And he's just yelling, get the fuck out of the car. And he's trying to get her out of the car. He's reaching in the car to grab her, right? Now, he could draw his weapon and point it at her and say, get out of the car, right? Like, that's what you would be doing. Like, get the fuck out of the car. We'll play that in a second. But he could, again, we're talking about this as a show because, this guy is in position to fulfill his role. But what I want to talk about here is his weapon isn't drawn yet, right?
Fatally shot.
See, he just drew his weapon. Okay? Let's go back here. He's just going to draw his weapon now. As the car's veering towards him.
Fatally shot.
And as soon as he draws his weapon, he's shooting.
A motorist. 37-year-old.
So, like, that's 100% fucked. Right? We'll go back again here.
On Wednesday.
So, they're approaching the car. These guys are approaching the car. Now, he says, get the fuck out of the car. We've seen that.
A federal agent.
And then she drags up. This guy comes to position himself to shoot her in the fucking head. Right? And he's drawing his weapon.
Shot.
Like, he's just walked over from here to get an angle on shooting her in the head. So, like, he's got, he put himself in front of the car. I don't think he really got hit because he's off to the side. She's turning the wheel that way. But all he's trying to do here is pulling his weapon and shooting her in the head.
A federal agent
now,
fatally shot a motorist.
There's no, like, we're drawing our weapons now, right? To this woman. Like, this guy's trying to drag her out of the car, get the fuck out of the car, right? And the other guy is, he's just, all right, let's shoot this woman in the fucking head. Like, he draws his weapon, and in the same motion, within a second or less, is shooting her in the head. According to this, this what I consider a psychological operation, fake fucking thing. But, like, do you think they use this as a police training video? And how you deal with somebody who's a protester, right? So I'm going to read those comments because, like, what I said is when the car hits her, you can see from the other video, let me pull the other video up. So here they're approaching here. There's a video from that angle. Let me pull up the other video. Firearms may not be discharged. Just my wife had just sent me this. I just pulled this up. She sent this to me like 2 days ago. She sent a whole bunch of stuff. And so I don't know if this is, an actual law, but this is what's being passed around there. And it sounds like, policy. From Title I U.S. DOJ policy on use of force. Firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless one person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle, or 2, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury, and no other objectively reasonably means of defense appears to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle, right? Which he could have moved out of the path of the vehicle. He didn't have to stand in fucking front of it. He did not have to stand there. In fact, you never stand there. When have you seen a cop stand, where he's filming with one hand and he's got his hand on his firearm ready to shoot her in the fucking head, right? Because, to do that, you would be like, well, if she moves this vehicle, if she tries to get away, I'm pulling out my weapon and shooting her in the fucking head, right? He didn't just flip out in a second. Like he had that as like, all right, this is what's going to happen. He's approaching her. The other guy rips her out of the car. Again, ripping her out of the car instead of pulling his firearm and saying, get out of the car. Like both of them drawing their firearms and pointing it at her and say, get it out of the car, right? Where she has no idea that no guns are in play yet. One guy's trying to rip her out of the car. The other guy's coming in front of her. So she may or may not have seen the second guy. And he's, positioned in an area where he just pull out his firearm and shoot him in the fucking face, right? Like that's not police procedure. And it's premeditated on his part. And this whole backstory they have about him being dragged by a pedophile, because he punched the window out. Again, that's not police procedure. You never see that at a traffic stop. And I talked about escalation and de-escalation in one of these things here. I want to get to this comment. Let me just check this thing out here. So here it is from Gemini. I put that into Gemini. The policy you're referencing states firearms may not be discharged solely to disable a moving vehicle, specifically firearms. I've just read this exact same. Cause of death or serious injury, and no reasonable, effective, safe, and feasible alternative appears to exist. And the alternative was the guy doesn't stand there and he gets out of the way. Like the car is not moving at anything more than 2 miles an hour, right? She's coming from a dead stop. She's got her wheels cranked and she's putting the accelerator on. And everybody knows, my brother used to race cars, right? Like he would for short distances when he got back from Vietnam. He had all this thrill-seeking stuff. And he said the key to racing a car is that you can get moving quicker off the line. Like if you see these like drag races where the wheels are spinning, the tires are spinning. You guys all experience that when you gun the car. And then the car accelerates. Of course, the car's going to go much faster than a person. But over, whatever it is, 40 yards or whatever it was, 30 yards that my brother would race the cars, he won money doing it because they don't get off the line, right? You're moving a big, heavy vehicle. It takes a while for the momentum to build up. It has more power in the engine. But, like, she's going from a dead stop, right? Like, anybody can understand this. So the guy can easily get out of the way and not even stand there in the first place. There's no reason for him to be in that position. He's in the, I want to shoot this bitch in the face position, right? Like, that's the only reason to be there. Like, he can be on the other side behind the car, right? But to get the kind of, like he's walking around, and he's quick to draw his firearm and shoot her in the fucking face. Like he's, it's like, this is what I'm going to do if she moves his car kind of thing. Like that's the only reasonable explanation. Let me show this other videos here. So here's the shooter, right? Now he's not engaged with this woman. They both have their fucking cameras out and they're taping each other, which is really fucked. Like it's just, which seems staged both ex-military, right? She's being a douche, just trying to block ICE from coming into this neighborhood. Now, we're going to get into all that in a moment. Yeah, so, I don't know, there's probably maybe 20 ICE agents here. And so, she's talking to him, and he's looking at the car. Now, he could stop on this side of the passenger side, right? These cars are still able to get by her. And she's not, she's doing whatever the fuck she's doing. This woman's he's gonna turn around and film her in a second. Get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the fucking car. And he goes to reach for a door. So there's like, why not pull your firearm and say, get the fuck out of the car? Right? Like, this is, because you're preventing her from drawing her firearm. Like, if she draws a gun, then she by the time she reaches for something, you shoot her. I thought she had a gun. This kind of thing, right? But he's just going to go manhandle the thing. She's now in reverse, so she's got to put the thing in drive. No! And she starts. No! She goes backwards. Her fucking wife here is trying to get in the car. He's positioned himself.
Protesters are gathering.
Like, where's the dog? My wife keeps saying, "Where's the dog?" What happened to the dog? There's a dog in the back. Like, why not any footage of them grabbing her out of the car, the dog, any of that stuff? Like, what happens to the dog? Like, my biggest concern is the dog. How many people are like more concerned about the dog than any of the people in this thing? The dog's not acting, right? They're not, So that was this video clip here. So then there's this one from CNN.
On camera, we do warn you there is profanity. This is disturbing content. Here it is.
It's disturbing content. It's not disturbing to me. I don't know how many people is this disturbing to. Right? Like, and the other thing I want to say is all this stuff that I'm showing you when Biden was, and this was before Biden and certainly even more so during Biden, this would be a demonetized video. And, maybe they wouldn't even let you show it, right? Like anything that was disturbing content, like I could go through the monetization policies, but I don't want to. But this, you just couldn't show anything close to this. And these videos are all over the place. Same thing with the Charlie Kirk stuff. That's like even more graphic in some ways because of the blood and whatever. But like, YouTube just wouldn't let you show it, right? And they certainly wouldn't monetize it. Now they don't give a shit. Like, they're just, these videos are everywhere. And CNN, everyone's showing these things.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know.
So the guy wouldn't got the license plate, right? That's the cop. So you can see, all right, he's filming the license plate.
Get the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Okay, so here he is here, right? He's in front of the car, and he can easily get out because he's reversing the car. Like, it's within reason that she's trying to pull out. She's backing up so she can go forward, right? Everyone sees that. That's like fucking, her next move is to go forward. She's trying to get out of there. She's leaving her wife behind. Fuck you. So, and then the thing hits him, right? And then, so he's drawing his firearm when the vehicle hits him. He could be getting out of the way. And it doesn't hit him like fucking, it's going like 2 miles an hour, right? Minor fucking damage. The car's not going fast, and she's just pulling out. We all saw it. She hasn't got any momentum. And he's positioned himself. He's walked around the car. He's positioned himself like this is a staged event to do it right in front of to be positioned to the best possible place where he can positioned to shoot her in the face, right? Like that's where he's positioned himself. So he's, you know, like he's filming this thing, walking around the car, getting ready to draw his firearm. She's going in reverse, and now she's going to go forward. And he's not like, oh, let me get out of the way of the car. Again, there's a law there that you know, if you get out of the way of a car, get out of the way of a car. Don't fucking shoot someone in the head if they don't have a firearm. The car is not considered a weapon that would justify you shooting her. And shooting her does not stop her from hitting him because she already hit him, right? The car's past him, and now he's just shooting her in the fucking face as she goes by. We see the video here, right? Go back to the video here. So there's no plan right now. He's just filming her. He's filmed the license plate here. He's filming her wife. He's not making, like, he could arrest the woman that's talking to him. You know, they could detain her. Well, he can't because he's ICE. Like, he's not a cop, but fucking, you know, whatever. They haven't made a plan of what they're going to do with them, right? Like, this woman's parked at the fucking sideway being a douche. And now they're dealing with this. And they're, you know, he's just walking around the car filming her. And these guys approach and they're like, he goes, get out of the fucking car, and he grabs her door, which is locked, right? You can't get her out because it's locked. Her window's down. Okay, so this guy here, she's backing up. He doesn't have to be there. She's obviously going to go forward. She's backing up so she could have an angle to drive out. She's turning her wheels that way. Now her wheels are being turned this way, right? You can see they're being turned this wheel. And then she's going this way. And, you know, she's left her wife fucking behind. There's a dog in here. Baby on board. They got a fucking bunch of liberal fucking lesbian stickers on their windows here. Right? That kind of shit we see a car with. You know, the car's trying to tell you all as much as they can about somebody. Look at me. This is what I believe. I'm going to place these fucking stickers on the back of my window. Boom. And so you can see his feet are out of the way when look at where he is when he fires the first shot. Okay? He's been hit. So right now the car's not a weapon for him because he's out of the way. When he fires his first shot, and he's got that weapon out right here. You can see his feet over here. Boom. Like, he's way over here. The car's already past him. And so he doesn't need to stop the car. And this woman's standing behind her. Like, if he fucking... Anytime you discharge a firearm, you know, you have to go through this. We got coyotes, right? And, you know, not really. Like, we've had 2 coyotes in our yard in, like, 7 years that we've seen. And another time they might have got chicken when we didn't see them. But... they're in the pasture all the time. And our neighbor put some snares up by the fence line and to snare some of the coyotes. But we, you know, right around this time of year they come out and we hear them, and they're in mating season, and they act a little fucking crazy. You see them in mating season. And if a coyote comes in our yard, you know, I could shoot the thing, but I have to consider that the neighbor's car is driving by, any number of things. You got to figure out where that bullet's going. And we live in a rural area, you know, but if you're discharging firearms, where's that bullet going to go if you miss your target? What's behind the bullet? Like, that's all these guys have to get that kind of training. Now, chances are, where he's shooting, he's at point blank range. But if it, you know, and it might even go through the woman, you know, the possibility, it goes through her and hits this person behind her or anybody standing on the sidewalk behind them, right? Like, this is not a good shot because he's, you know, he's wants to shoot her in the fucking face. Like, every action he did when she started to reverse her car and then pull her car forward was, I want to get myself in the best position to fucking, you know, execute this woman by shooting her in the fucking head at point blank range, right? Now, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, her car's moving, and that the bullet might miss her head. And if it misses her head, where's it going to go? It's, you know, there's a suburban neighborhood behind there, right? So this is, you know, this is not like any way they would ever. You've never seen something like this because These aren't cops, and this is not police training. They don't train you to do that. There's a law, which I just read, which clearly states what you're supposed to do or not do. And that, you know, you were supposed to not do this. Right? You understand this? So this, let me go to the comment now. But like, he's clearly out of the way of the car when the car has grazed him, maybe hit his phone, you know, I mean, barely touched him. And he's not concerned about getting hit by the car. He's concerned about where and how and when can I shoot this woman in the face. Okay, so let me just pull this comment up here. And I got another one that just came in. Here. Okay, here I got it pulled. I have to pull the wrong thing up here. I got to make this bigger here. So to my video entitled, thug shoots lesbian in the face, unarmed lesbian in the face. Gut busting hilarious with copious amounts of information conflated. Well done, as always. As should be as always. So that's the, all right, I'm telling you that you made a great video and this is great, right? Which you don't need to say when this is what the person really wants to say. I will state that you're understanding this perspective from a law enforcement officer, though. I will state that you're not understanding this from perspective of a law enforcement officer, though. So, first of all, this is not a law enforcement officer. This is ICE, right? ICE is, since President Donald Trump was sworn in on January 20th, 2025, his administration has hired approximately 50,000 new federal employees, primarily in national security roles, with a significant number joining Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. So I asked how many new ICE agents Trump has hired. And you have that fucking, that dumb Barbie cunt fucking dog shooting woman, whatever, Kristi Noem, who's in charge of the agency, is supposed to train these guys. These are not law enforcement. These are ICE, right? ICE is not supposed to be on the street. And we'll get into this thing because I don't think they really are. But they've hired all these new ICE agents, and that wasn't law enforcement. What happened there was not appropriate law enforcement. This woman's protesting and putting her car in front of, this whatever's the ICE agents and being a douche. And, they're aware of the law. Like, they're aware of what's supposed to happen. Like if they were dealing with cops. Like Trump called the wife a professional protester. Like these people know what they can get away with and not, right? Like they're not there to get arrested. They're there to obstruct and take video and try to make the fucking, get something to pop that the ICE agents do something that they're not supposed to, right? And, but I think this is really them just being, if we're talking about this show as a real thing, that's the characters in the show are, trying to provoke a reaction from ICE. And, no way do they think the guy's just going to open fire on their fucking shoot her in the fucking head from point blank range. And so to call these guys law enforcement, these aren't cops who are trained to deal with protesters and civilians. They're not trained. And they're obviously not trained by everything that they did here. Why not draw your firearms and say, get out of the car, like in a way that's, don't run up and grab the door of the car like the guy did. And, they can block her in. The way if you go back to that video, that truck could have drove by her and pinned her car in, right? Could have drove her so that her car could not leave. They stopped the truck behind her, but they could have blocked her exit, and then she's got to get out of the car. They've left her an exit, a space to exit, which she goes in reverse. The only way she can get out of there is to go in reverse first. Her wife's trying to get in the car. She's like, fuck you. Right? There's got a dog in the back of the car. And the guy said, get out of the car. Why didn't she get out of the fucking car? I mean, what's her decision making there, right? She should have got out of the car. But her not getting out of the car doesn't mean that you get to shoot her in the fucking face, right? And so I don't understand what I will not. I will state that you're not understanding this from the perspective of law enforcement officer, though. I believe the whole thing was staged as well. However, okay, so that's just fucking dumb. Now, this person says, gut-busting, hilarious, and copious amounts of information conflated. Well done, as always. You could have left a comment at that, because I make it clear, this is me voicing my opinion. Like, it doesn't, there's no reason to comment on my opinion. Oh, I think you're wrong about this. The show that we're both watching. We're both agreeing it's a show, but you have to say, this is wrong. Your opinion of the show is wrong, right? Like, fucking, why say something like that? That's just fucking stupid. I agree that this is staged, yet, in the staging, you're wrong about this. It's stupid. Like, I say, don't do that. You're wasting my time. It doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter. People come to listen to my opinion. I'm giving it to you. If you think I'm wrong, great. You can go somewhere else or, just move on. It doesn't matter. Like, my opinion doesn't fucking matter. I'm not defending my opinion over something that's fake and staged. But what makes this thing a viral moment? What's the big moment here? It's the fucking ICE agent shooting her in the fucking face, right? That's what makes it the big moment. And he's not there's already a law there, right? I've read the law, which has been confirmed by Gemini, that statement that states clearly that only if she has a weapon, and a car is not considered a weapon. The guy didn't have to be in that position in the first place. He's already done something fucked up by punching through a window and trying to drag an immigrant pedophile out of the car, according to their story. He's been trained by Kristi Noem, and these are fucking border patrol ICE agents. They're not fucking cops. There's no federal cops. The FBI aren't cops, right? There's no, these are people that are supposed to be there for immigration. The other thing is, have you seen any ICE agents on your street? Have you ever seen any ICE agents where you live? I've seen none. And I don't know anybody who has. And if you have, leave a comment. Because where have we seen these ICE agents? Well, they're supposed to be in Texas, which has the largest border with Mexico. And these guys were supposed to be at the border. Why the fuck are they in Minnesota that borders with Canada? They're not in Wyoming. They're not in Maine. They're not in New Hampshire. Where do we hear them? We hear them in Minnesota in suburbs. Why are they in suburbs in fucking Minnesota? The same place where the George Floyd thing took place, where there's all these liberals and all these people. Well, yeah, is there a huge population of immigrants in Minnesota, right? Like, why fucking there? Like, why? I've seen immigrant workers. I don't see immigrant gang members. I don't see I haven't seen any of the things that they say. And if you live in a place that has these things, I've seen videos of it, but I haven't seen these people out on the fucking street, right? And I haven't seen ICE agents anywhere other than in terms of the videos in California where, California's California. And, where this big fucking battle between the governor and Trump over ICE agents, where they've put these law enforcement. Now, 50,000 new ICE agents or 30,000 or whatever it is a lot of new ICE agents, but it's not enough to cover the whole fucking country, suburb by suburb. So why are they in these suburbs looking for illegal aliens? How many fucking illegal aliens have you seen living in suburbs? Right? They're in these places. They're going to be in poorer areas because they're not fucking making a lot of money because they're illegal aliens. They're doing shit work, and they're going to be in places, that aren't where you have to pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a house, right? So you don't see this. You don't see ICE agents and you don't see illegal aliens in suburbs. How many people live next to illegal aliens in some rich suburb in Minnesota? And so why are they even there? Like, even people in Minnesota, those of you in Minnesota, have you seen ICE agents and illegal aliens just running amok, right? Like, it's a weird thing when you're so far away from the southern border. Why Minnesota? Like, why, of all the places? See, this is a very odd thing. Okay, so let's get back to the comment here. Here it is. I believe the whole thing was staged as well. However, this gun was drawn because the vehicle had an occupant that would potentially be aggressive with a life-ending ton of potential weapon. No, it wasn't life-ending because even unless like somehow the guy fell down and she rolled over him. But he drew his weapon after she had already hit him. Like I showed you that. And he was drawing the weapon to shoot her in the fucking head. Because she was reversing the car. Like he made the decision to draw his weapon when the car started to back up. And then he drew his weapon when the car had already passed her and started firing. So, and it's against his fucking, I read the rule, right? I read the law. So, and he's not a cop. These aren't fucking cops, right? They're not supposed to be dealing with suburban people. Like this is thugs trained by a woman who bragged about shooting her dog in the head as a way to think that she was going to run for president, who dresses up in fucking any number of outfits, which we've seen on her YouTube channel even before she did this job. Coming out of South Dakota, she talks like a fucking, like she's got like a 100 IQ or less. I mean, she's definitely in the bottom half of intelligence. And she's, not capable of running an agency like this. And that Trump and these people are like, let's crack heads. He's bringing in thugs to crack some heads. And it seems mostly like, performative. Like, why are they going to some school in fucking Minnesota right after that? Only to provoke protests, and it's all fucking fake and contrived. So don't call these guys cops. They're fucking actors or thugs. Like, it's one or the other, right? They're either actors or thugs. And this was not like, oh, this was a good police work, right? Like, they couldn't get this fucking, this lesbian out of her, this unarmed liberal lesbian out of her car. To call it a weapon when clearly the guy doesn't have to stand in front of her. She's not driving, erratically. She's protesting and being a douche. But they didn't need to do this. He's already filmed her license plate. They would have had her and, whenever. They could have went and arrested her later. And, really, what do they have her on? Obstructing justice? Like, and they can't arrest. Like, ICE agents can't arrest American citizens. So I asked Gemini about this. Why U.S. citizens get detained erroneously. Despite having no civil authority over U.S. citizens, they can arrest citizens who are who are a part of human trafficking, narcotics smuggling, cybercrime, or child exploitation. Right? So she's not doing any of those things, not protesters, right? But here I have to scroll back to it. Despite having no civil authority over U.S. citizens, ICE has a documented history of detaining Americans in 2025 and 2026. These wrongful detentions have increased due to outdated databases. They detain until deport policy and these types of things. But they're not supposed to be arresting American citizens, right? They're supposed to be dealing with illegal immigrants, which, again, they're up in Minnesota, and they're going through schools and acting like fucking thugs and cracking heads. And, the protests are there. I mean, where other places are they protesting? As far as I know, California and Minnesota. Is there some place I'm not seeing? Right? Like, it's not, the whole thing's like fucked. It's like fake, it's not right. So while I believe the whole thing is staged as well, however, his gun was drawn because the vehicle had an occupant that could potentially be aggressive with a life-ending ton of potential weapon. Officers can place themselves in direct correlation with the vehicle if they perceive the vehicle could take action that could involve public harm. Not officers, ICE agents. They're not supposed to be dealing with people like this. This is a civil matter. They could call cops down to deal with it, right? Which, cops are supposed to be trained to deal with this. But this woman was not doing any of those things. Like, that's not, this actress. I'm not mad, dude. Like, this whole thing. Her car's, stationed right in front of people. And again, like, they could have taken that truck and blocked her in. They parked behind her. There's any number of ways they could have de-escalated this situation. They weren't like, you got to move. They're not interacting with her. They haven't told her to move yet. They haven't told her to move her car. Get your car out of the way, or get out of the car, we're going to detain you. Like, this is, this the guy comes up aggressively, get the fuck out of the car. This is their first interaction with her. They drive up in a truck with fucking masks on. They run up to her and say, get the fuck out of the car. Is that police training, bro? Like, do you think that's good cop work? Like, it's just fucking stupid. Like, why say stupid shit when you said this is, you think that, again, with this Gut busting hilarious with copious amounts of information conflated. Well done as always. Well, you know, that's not what you're saying here. You don't want to say that. Like, this person hasn't commented in some way. There's no record of them commenting or, you know, they're regular viewers. Like, this is just saying some kind of, you know, if it's gut busting, like, this is a comedy show. Like, I don't even give a shit about this, right? Like, I'm covering a bunch of fake stuff about people I don't care about. Like, you know, whatever this thing, if they're actors or not, you know, I don't care about these ICE agents or these protesters. They're like, you know, I mean, if the depopulation happens, you know, these people hopefully will be a part of it because they're not, you know, what value do any of these people have? Protesting people and these ICE agents. Again, you know, anyways, but the officer would have been held accountable if she had hurt people and he didn't defuse the situation before harm was done. She's not hurting anybody. He was a fucking stupid. What this frumpy lesbian woman is going to hurt people in her little fucking Honda car. She's not driving into people. She's leaving. What people are there for her to hurt? Like, who was she there to hurt? Right? What's fucking talking about? Like, you know, I've read the law. Like you're saying, like, this person's is acting like a law enforcement. The law is that he can't shoot her in the fucking face. It says it here back in Gemini again, right? Which covers the racial good thing. The incident on January 7th, the Euro agent in Minneapolis shot and killed Good while she was in a vehicle. It says here, the case directly ties to the DOJ Title 1 policy you mentioned earlier. Evidence suggests the agent fired into a moving vehicle to disable the driver, which is a violation of the DOJ use of force protocols, unless there's immediate threat of deadly force by other means than other than the vehicle. So that's, you know, the law, the fucking law that he's violating. And they're not going to fucking, like, what's Trump going to do about that, right? You know, is he going to stop that from, is he going to enforce, it's just they're not going to punish this guy. This guy will be back on the streets doing his shit. And, you know, for a guy who's supposed to be dealing with immigrants, right? I believe he acted aggressively, but within the scope he's afforded. Well, you're wrong. Like, fucking, like you're saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. And I didn't know about this rule until I pulled it up this morning and found out about it. You don't have a right to stupid prize. You don't have a right to stupid prize. However, the whole thing was staged. I'm a professional firefighter and former professional private investigator. I respect your opinions, but you're missing some nuances in the situation. However, the whole thing was staged, so I guess it's a moot point. LOL. Yeah, like, stupid fucking comment. And you're wrong on all cases. For just, like, this is what I'm talking about, just wasting my time when I don't fucking care. Like, I don't want comments about the nuances that I miss, because who gives a shit what I say? You know, like, I don't expect 100% perfection. Like, I'm just bullshitting about stuff. I'm just, like, telling you what I see. And my track record is unbelievably correct in terms of predicting the future. And, you know, people come to listen to what I have to say. I'm reasonable about, like I said, identifying the thug. How many people thought about that? You know, identifying the thug. In this case, the ICE agents are the thugs. And in the George Floyd situation, George Floyd was the thug, right? The cops, you know, the police work with George Floyd is, you know, and again, you know, like, and I was saying this in my last video and I missed this point. You know, we don't know what the ICE agent's name is, but we know all the cops that were involved in the Minnesota thing, right? The George Floyd thing, right? We know all the cops' names almost immediately, right? They identified the cops who were, you know, accused of abusing them. But this guy who shot a woman in the fucking face, an unarmed woman, we don't know who he is. Like, he's considered the victim. They're protecting him, right? Like, that's how fucked this thing is. So this person here makes a valid point, then I have a couple more negative comments. Another thing here, this is also interesting. You know what's so funny? Whenever the things happen, you have to wait weeks and even months or a year for the police cam information. This guy has a personal phone. So what right do they have to the video on this guy's personal phone? You know, and after he shoots her, he says, fucking bitch, right? So funny that the event happened immediately. We have all the police cam footage released to us. Well, I don't think they have police cam footage because these guys are fucking ICE agents. I don't think they have to wear police cams. I mean, I would assume that they don't unless they want to tape things that they want to use to provoke people. But he's using this on his phone. It was all set up every bit. It's just like J5 bad acting, J6, January 6 bad acting. That was all acted. They are trying to trigger out civil war, this kind of things, right? Which I agree with all this stuff. But it isn't body cam footage. He was taping with his camera for whatever reason, his phone, and they decided to release it. And you can clearly see the car hit him first or whatever. Again, microphones make a lot of noise. Like I said, I'm just barely tapping on the microphone. And then on the bottom, if I roll it around, it makes a ton of noise, right? That's, I'm barely touching the thing. And so, it makes a lot of noise when, like, the microphone on your phone, if you ever heard it, if it's in your pocket or you ruffle it around or whatever. And so, like, if the car hit his phone, or, his phone hit him or whatever it is. But, like, again, she's going 2 miles an hour. The fucking thing's stupid, right? So, and this person writes, this was about my, well, let's just read this one. This was about the person calling me a grifter. Paul doesn't even advertise. He doesn't seek promos or collabs with other YouTubers. Somebody called me a grifter, which I'm like, do you not understand the word or how to apply the word? Like me calling, he said, talk about calling the kettle black, calling Trump or whoever was a grifter. It's easy to figure out the grift. And this person says, Paul doesn't even advertise. He doesn't seek promos or collabs from other YouTubers. He doesn't recommend brands of homestead tools and supplies he uses. There are other YouTubers who follow him who are trying to start their YouTube channels and actually see other YouTubers' grifty strategies they try to teach you so you can succeed on YouTube. So to call this channel a grift really shows how much the person is actually being grifted by probably most of the dumb fuckistan's channel they follow and all the psyop sound bites they feast on daily. Like I said in the video, or when I was talking about it, I don't think the person understood what the word grift is. It's just silly. There's plenty of things you could call me. There's things that you could say, right? And, they might be misunderstandings or whatever, but I'm far from like a nice person, right? Like I say shit all the time I mock people and I say things that are, people can find offensive, but I'm not grifting, I'm not shilling, like who am I shilling for, right? God, I'm getting paid money to tell people that they need to, or tell people, I don't tell people they need to, but suggest, or not even suggest, say that I believe that connecting with God is the only solution and changing. Who's paying me to say that? Who would benefit financially or any other way from me saying that, right? And this final comment, this is one that came this morning. I disagree with you. She was more than armed. She was driving a deadly weapon. Doesn't matter if you're white or black or gay and you drive at a cop, they will shoot you. No. Like if you're a cop that's standing in front of a car and the car's coming at you, as I said before, which are you going to do? I'm going to get hit by the car, and my family's going to have to take care of me for months. But I'm going to shoot this bitch, right? Or you're going to get out of the way. What's more important, shooting her or getting out of the way? Like, you have a choice. Is it more important that you make sure that you shoot this person? Like, it isn't like some person just running amok and driving into people. Like, especially in this situation. The best thing is to let her drive off and then just, you got fucking a bunch of cars behind her. You can just come up and pull her over again, right? You don't even need to do a police chase. You have her fucking wife right there. This guy knows that she's with this other person here. He might not know it's her wife, but they're together. And she's, so, you could detain the wife and then go back and grab her. And, she hasn't done anything that's going to be like fucking a felony jail time. She obstructed, we could say she's obstructing justice, maybe. I don't know what the charge would be here. But again, this isn't for ICE agents to decide. They're not supposed to be charging people with obstruction of justice unless it has to do with any of those things I read. the stuff that they're supposed to, human trafficking, bringing in drugs, from the border. Not like, they're not here to deal with drug crimes, but drugs crimes related to things that are coming over the border, legal and illegal immigration. And so, it's just fucking stupid. Like, again, it's some kind of op that they're staging, but it's not something where there should be a debate. Like, what he did was fucked. Like, he wanted to shoot this woman in the face because it was part of the script. Like, this is what his actor was supposed to do. But if it wasn't scripted, then he wanted to shoot her in the fucking face, and he went out of his way to do it. And it wasn't because he was threatened by the car. Because him shooting in the face wasn't going to stop her, because after he shot her, she plowed into things. So, what the bystander said, this, what looks like a crisis actor, was that when he shot her, her leg must have stiffened up, and she was on the accelerator, and she slammed into other cars and a telephone pole and did lots of damage, right? And then sold the fucking car on Craigslist, which I guess is probably fake as well. It doesn't matter whether you're black or gay and you drive you drive at a cop and they will shoot you. Countries have borders, laws, and organizations that enforce those laws. You mean in Minnesota? You mean the Canadian border? Is that what you're talking about, dumb fuck? Then why are they in fucking Minnesota? And why are they enforcing the border in Minnesota? The lady, FAFO, and I personally think the cop was justified. She should have been at home with her kids. Dumb. Yeah, you're dumb. Like, because I just read the law. You can't do that. It says you can't shoot the driver of the car. And this is federal law enforcement, which would apply to ICE. You can't shoot the driver of the car, and if they're unarmed and the car isn't considered a weapon, other than the car. The car is not considered a weapon, right? And so it's there, but just common sense says this could be avoided. I talked about de-escalation, and this is and then they went into a school right afterwards, and was cracking heads over there, tear gassing people, and again, American citizens. They weren't, they're looking for what, a couple of fucking illegal immigrant people working at the school. You don't go into schools and do all this shit. And again, this is like when they swat people without fucking provocation. It's done in a way that's, it's not necessary, right? They're doing something that, based in, we've heard of some illegal immigrants in there. Let's scare the shit out of all these high school kids. And why am I not seeing that and hearing about? I don't know anybody who's seen ICE or ICE agents or fucking protests of ICE agents. All of America, I haven't heard it. If you guys have seen it or heard it, other than these videos that are coming out, and again, where have we heard it? In Minnesota, for some reason. California makes sense because there might be a lot of legals there coming up from the southern border. But Minnesota, right? There are legal aliens all over the country. Why Minnesota? And what about those dog-eating Haitians in Springfield? What happened to them, right? The whole thing is fucked. Anyways, let's get back to it here. Actually, I just want to add a few more things. So, I was just talking to my wife about this stuff. And, one of the things I meant to say here is that this guy is more than likely not going to be fired. We may never know his name officially, right, where the media and the government releases this guy's name. Like, so you're not going to know whether he got fired or not or whatever it is. You can't see his face. There's people who say they know him. There's, people who have doxed him online. But he is not going to be charged for this. And, any kind of a criminal situation, there are crimes that the local police department or the federal government don't investigate, right? Biden committed crimes. Hunter Biden committed crimes, and his father pardoned him, right? Like, so, there are crimes that are happening that there are rules that are being broken, there are laws being broken that they just don't choose to investigate. And there's rules of engagement in the police force and things like this, and ICE and military that happen, and they don't choose to prosecute. They don't. It's not like the system goes after 100% goes after criminals. I mean, the whole idea behind Trump's, policies here is that the Biden administration just to let illegal aliens come through here, and they weren't doing anything to impose these laws, to enforce these laws, right? And right now, ICE can get away with shooting women in the face. If this guy's not prosecuted, that means ICE can just beat the shit out of people and, American citizens. And Trump is not only not going to prosecute them, but encouraging it and maybe even training them to do so, right? And then, provoking these riots. I got something with the QAnon shaman I'm going to show after this voiceover, or maybe before this after this voiceover. There's a Gwen Walz and a QAnon shaman clip that you've already seen. I'll stick it in before I show all this ICE stuff. I'll end with this ICE thing. But this will be my ending voiceover here to the video. But there are, rules that aren't being enforced, right? And so, you can pardon people like Trump did on January 6th and Biden did with, all these people. And there are laws being broken. And the whole reason people are upset about Jeffrey Epstein is because this idea the elite get away with things that normal citizens don't get away with, right? That the laws don't get enforced. The laws are on the books, but it's how and when you choose to force them, or if you do, right? And so what this message sends out there, and again, like it seems all contrived and acted and all these things, but what it sends out there to people is that ICE can just come up and shoot you in the face and like get away with it. And, make up some bullshit excuse that he was, and people are going to go along with it. And all these right-wing fucking dopes, which I said all the time to the QAnon dumb fucks, and you would say the same thing to the liberal dumb fucks, is all of us against them. Like in terms of, and I'm not against anybody. I don't have, like God has a plan and the plan is unfolding, and all this stuff is a part of that. Whether I like it or not, whether it's good or not, is irrelevant. It's whether this is part of some sort of, overall divine plan, which I believe it is, right? But in terms of all these things, the way that people think about it, it isn't whether they're shooting lesbian liberals in the face or not. It's whether that could be your daughter in the car, or that could be your sister or something. And, that this and a right-wing person. What happens when the left takes control and left-wing cops and thugs are doing that kind of thing, or whatever it might be, the protesters. It's you don't think about it in terms of, oh, I'm with the fucking ICE agents are on my side. I mean, these ICE agents could be, they're probably not, because we don't have to import thugs. But what if these guys are Israeli military or foreign military, or we don't even know who these guys are? They're they're mask-wearing motherfuckers who are not, these people are not on your side. If you're a right-wing person, you're a Trump person, I mean, you're already fucking worthless, dumb fuck at this point. I mean, what value do you have if you're still on Trump's side? Even the fucking QAnon shaman realized that Trump punked them, right? Like even these people are realizing that, Marjorie Taylor Greene and them, like how can anybody be a Trumper at this point? But there are plenty of people who still are. And what they don't get, and any of these people don't get, is that there is a, policy change going to happen and a lifestyle change. It's going to affect fucking everybody. It's, it's going to hurt everybody, and it's, coming around the corner, right? It's already here. And like I said, it's about grooming you to accept this is your new normal, where there's going to be, a violation of posse comitatus. There's federal troops on the streets, and then whatever this fucking ICE thugs are. It's not about immigration. It's about wrecking the country, right? It's wrecking your lifestyle. It's everybody is going to realize that the way that you used to live is, your lifestyle is no longer in stock, right? And, when you're being marched to FEMA camps, you're not going to care that what race the people are next to you, or whether they're liberal or conservative, or, any of these things. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm fucking, my life is over. What I consider my life is over. Whatever, there's the depopulation that's going to happen, whatever happens, whatever fucking viruses they release, whatever atomic fucking weapons or nuclear weapons that go off, or whatever happens, organic things that happen as the system implodes, as the empire comes down, you're not going to care about any of this shit, right? No one is. Like, you're going to worry about your next meal, or, or something just in terms of imminent danger that's going to be a part of your everyday existence that wasn't there before. And none of these things matter then. And you're not going to feel like, oh my God, these guys are on my side. These troops are on my side. Like, people think they're on your side, and that Trump is on your side. Like, everyone should fucking know by now that's not the case. Biden wasn't on your side, and Trump isn't on your side, and there's, none of these people care about you at all, right? In fact, in many cases, they fucking hate you, right? So, the most important thing to know is that if you believe in a controlling government, if you believe in a shadow government, and I think almost everybody here believes that there's a shadow government, right? That there's some kind of power behind the power, that Trump isn't the real leader and the president and the politicians aren't the real leaders. I mean, they're all bought and sold for. They're all owned by corporations in Israel and foreign governments, and they all have their sponsors, their handlers, the people that give them the money. They're all fucking grifting. These are all grifters, and so and shills, grifters and shills. Oh my, right? And so what would be the other thing? Grifters, shills, and sellouts. Oh my, right? So that could be the title of this video: Grifters, shills, and sellouts. Oh my! If you believe in the shadow government, then they have control over Trump. That's the people who control the government. Whatever's happening, if there's a shadow government, then they have to control both parties and they have to control the presidency. And Trump has to be doing exactly what they want. Like they want Trump doing exactly what he's doing. And the shadow government isn't here to make America great again, right? They clearly. The policies now are to depopulate, with the rise of robot technology. There's not enough resources. AI is going to take up your water and your electricity, right? So, there's lots of people they call the useless eaters. I mean, anybody who understands the idea of the elite and the shadow government idea, the people who really control the system, it's time to depopulate. Like that time is now. Like there's time to reduce the amount of people because you don't need all these people. Part of it was to have a global, 7 billion people market, right, of, people who are going to move the technology forward because there's all this money and all this global, obsession with technology. But the technology now with AI and robots have advanced enough that they don't need all these other people. At some point they're going to make robots to fix other robots. I've talked about this in many videos, where robots can now replace the majority of the workforce, and robots are 100% slaves, right? They're controlled, and that AI can now replace so much of the other part of the workforce. And so you got all these people that have no purpose in the system. They have no purpose for the so-called elite. The system is imploding. I talked about this with YouTube, when YouTube lost control of their own algorithms. And they still are trying to get me to use YouTube, Google Ads. And the Google Ads suck so bad because they couldn't figure out who my target population was. I was willing to pay them if I could bring in more viewers, when something YouTube used to do, but they shadow banned so many of us, and so they don't recommend my videos. So I was going to pay them if the return in my investment would bring in enough people that would generate enough income that it would make it feasible to do so, right? Like if I was paying you Google like $100, a month or $1,000 a month to run ads, and I was making $1,000 back or more, then I could justify that. But their fucking system was so fucking broken, and I had this dialogue with this guy, and I told him I want to advertise only on these channels. And he said, "Well, you can recommend the channels, but machine learning is going to decide where your ads are." I'm like, I can't tell you where I want to place my ads. I asked my audience here, what channels do you think I should advertise on? That there would be channels that you watch besides mine, where viewers might come to my channel. And they gave me a list of like 50 channels. It was like 100 channels, but 50 of them ran ads or so. And I sent this to this guy. I was talking to this guy, some foreign guy who was running these ads. And I'm saying I only want to run ads on these channels because the channels they were putting my ads on it was retarded, right? It was like people that would never watch my, the channels were so fucking far away from my channel. And he said, well, they'll take these suggestions into consideration. But as a customer, I'm like, fuck you. I'm telling you who to run the fucking ads on. I'm paying you guys to run ads. I'm not paying you guys to run ads on fucking channels that they'll never bring in fucking viewers. And so I, stopped running the fucking program. It sucked. And they keep on telling me, they keep on begging me to come back, right? And I'm like, you guys lost control of your fucking algorithms and your You're waiting for machine learning to catch up. And this is some years ago. You know, it was like 2 years ago or whatever, but the AI technology has developed. But, you know, they've lost me as a fucking customer because they wouldn't fucking cooperate and do what I asked. Like, you know, I'm spending the money on their fucking ad programs. I want to put them on the fucking channels that, like, will most likely give me the success that I would need, right? But you've seen this over and over again. They've lost control of their system, of their algorithms, and they've lost control of the public to whatever extent, you know, because of just information, all these things. And eventually the controllers will be taken out. They won't have control over the system. But when that happens, you know, everyone's going to celebrate, but then it's just chaos, right? Like, so it's great these pieces of shit won't be in charge anymore, but there won't be anybody in charge, and it'll just be, you know, it'll just be chaos. So, you know, but in that, they need America to be taken down, right? That would be part of the plan. Everyone agrees that's part of the plan. That they're not trying to make America, the controllers aren't trying to make America more successful. They're weakening us on every fucking level with first the liberal agenda of Biden and now crazy ass fucking Trump and his narcissistic bullshit and all this stuff he's doing. It's just weakening America. Like, you might agree with it because you're a dumb fuck and you still believe in the left-right, you know, stuff. You're still on the left-right thing, you're binary fuck, right? But, you know, in reality, everyone else can see Trump's a fucking disaster. They're not stopping him. You know, so, like, what's their plan then? Well, their plan is obvious. It's stated everywhere that your lifestyle is fucked. Like, you know, they're not going to allow you to live the resource-heavy lifestyle that it takes to keep America going. So that's done. Like, there's nothing anybody can do about it because it's never been sustainable. They made promises they couldn't keep, and they pretended you had something that they were never going to lose, and now you don't have a plan B or don't have the skills to go, you know, off grid or something like that. You're 100% dependent on the system that they're, you know, gonna say, hey, this is your new fucking deal. And, you know, they're gonna do it with a lot of fucking bells and whistles and a lot of chaos, a lot of trauma, and a lot of bullshit that people will be scared shitless. And it'll be like, you know, would your life, do you want to live, you know, in a 10 by 10 apartment in some smart city without a car and without property and, you know, all these things? You know, you'll rent everything and you'll love it. You know, do you want that, or you want to fucking die, right? Or you want to go off grid and live in the fucking, you know, wasteland of, you know, whatever is out there, gangs and thugs. And, you know, they got plenty of young people that are so addicted to technology. A 10 by 10 room is fine. Like, they're just, you know, they're not even in the real world anyway. So why do they give a shit about that, right? Like, they're just fine in these little fucking, you know, these colony-like cities. But, you know, and that shit's not going to fly anyway. But they have, you know, they're trying something. They're trying to transition everybody from your current lifestyle to something that's less. And that's their plan. And so it's not going to be successful, but it doesn't mean you're going to retain what you have, right? Like, your lifestyle's fucked either way. So it doesn't matter. Like, this was never something that was sustainable. It's a debt-based usury system, and those things aren't sustainable. So anyways, like, there's, you know, the point of this thing is they're now grooming you to believe that it's okay for cops to shoot American citizens in the face, these, you know, mass thugs, and there's no fucking rule of law because they're not applying these laws. And this was clearly a violation of the law, but it's fake and staged anyway, just so that you get groomed into believing that this is okay because it's coming to a city near you. All right, let's wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. As far as I'll definitely point to the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.